I woke up with my wrist cut open. Not metaphorically. There was a pool of blood on the desk, a fruit knife lying next to it like it was innocent, and a bowl of cold brown sugar water in my hand. Because apparently the previous owner of this body decided his last meal on Earth should be the saddest drink ever invented. Thunder outside, rain hammering the window, and me, sitting in a stranger's body, trying to hold 2 lifetimes of memories in one skull without screaming. Quick summary of my situation, as delivered by the world's worst orientation video playing inside my head. My name is Zhao Ming. Yesterday I was a doctor back on Earth. 11 years of medical school, bright future, dead of grief and alcohol the night after graduation. The universe said, lol, no second chances, buddy, and then gave me a second chance anyway, in a world called Blue Star, where superpowered humans fight actual monsters for a living, and everyone's future is decided by one letter on an awakening certificate. My letter was E. E-rank fire talent, the absolute toilet of the rankings. I focused, strained, and summoned my mighty power into my palm. A flame the size of a ping-pong ball appeared. It flickered. It looked cold. I could maybe warm a cup of tea with it, if the tea was patient. No wonder this kid opened his wrists. Because here's the rest of the file. Orphan. Parents were second-tier ability users who died holding the wall during a beast tide. Government compensation money sitting in the bank, which attracted a girl named Lin Ru, who spent 2 years being gentle, supportive, understanding, and roughly several 100,000 yuan of his dead parents' money. Yesterday, a friend told him she'd been getting very cozy with a classmate named Gu Lei. He asked her one question. She exploded. Who are you to question me? What even are we? And the boy who had already lost everything went home and picked up a fruit knife. Those were his memories. My conclusion was simpler. This wasn't a tragic romance. This was a scam with a skincare routine. My phone buzzed. Message from a contact saved as Lin Ru with a little red heart. Zhao Ming, I was just joking with you. I read the chat history once, professionally, like reviewing a patient's chart. Diagnosis confirmed. I deleted her, blocked her, and drank the cold sugar water in one go. Because wasting food is wrong, even when the food is depression in a bowl. Then I sat there in a dead boy's body, in a monster-infested world, with a fire talent that couldn't light a barbecue, and thought, okay, fine. I clawed my way up from nothing once already. Let's see this world try me. The world's answer arrived the very next morning, and it came dressed as homework. Because yes, this world still has school. Monsters roam the wilderness, superhumans split mountains, and I still had to sit in class 7 of Qingshui City No. 2 Middle School at 8 in the morning while Teacher Song reviewed the weaknesses of the Gale Wolf out of a textbook called Warcraft Biology. The college entrance exam was 1 month away. And in this world, the exam has 2 tracks. The liberal arts track, where you answer questions in a classroom and graduate into a nice safe life of serving ability users coffee. And the martial track, where they bus you into a ruin full of live monsters and grade you on how many you kill. Pass the martial exam, get into an ability user university, become superhuman, control your own fate. Fail it, and the polite version is that you die in the exam zone, which happens every single year. Teacher Song stood at the podium and gave the annual warning. Anyone below D-rank talent, do not sign up. The exam has real first-order beasts in it. Most of the kids who die in there are exactly your kind of student. Her eyes swept the back row and parked on me with the gentle subtlety of a searchlight. My best friend Zhang Kai leaned over, buzz cut, worried face. Mingzi, liberal arts is fine too. At least it's safe. Safe. My parents were second tier, and this world ate them anyway. Safety in this place is the biggest lie on the market. I patted his shoulder, stood up in front of the whole whispering class, and walked to the podium. Teacher Song, I'm registering for the martial track. She looked at me the way you look at a patient refusing treatment. You can still change it before tomorrow morning, Zhao Ming, I'm sure. She wrote my name down like she was signing my death certificate, and honestly, based on the available data, she kind of was. And the moment I sat back down, my slit wrist started burning. Not infection burning, ignition burning. And a cold, rusty, mechanical voice spoke directly into my brain. Beep. Host's health has been detected to have recovered. Supernatural ability evolution system activating. Newbie gift pack ready for distribution. Claim now? I nearly cried out loud in the middle of history class. The cheat code. My cheat code. It's here. Every transmigrator's sacred birthright. Arriving fashionably late, but arriving. I dug my nails into my palms and sat through the rest of the lesson vibrating like a phone on silent. The second the bell rang, I grabbed my bag and ran home without saying goodbye to anyone. Kicked my own door open, slammed it shut, and said yes to the system with the decisiveness of a man saying yes to free money. Newbie gift pack activated. Distributing A-rank supernatural ability. Bone Spirit Flame. The words hit me like thunder, and then the actual fire hit my living room like thunder's older brother. White and red flames erupted out of my body, my bones crackled, power flooded my veins, and fingertip-sized fire snakes went joyriding around the apartment, melting the sofa, the coffee table, and the television with equal enthusiasm. The inferno raged for a full minute and then sucked itself back into my body like it had never happened, leaving me standing in the smoking ruins of my furniture. Then a white light burst out of my chest, grew from a dot to a ball to a rotating cube, wrapped around me, and vanished. 2 abilities. The system had given me 2. In my left eye, a flicker of white-red flame. In my right, a tiny rotating cube. I pulled up the panel. Bone Spirit Flame, A rank. Cocoon of Space, C rank. Physical Strength, 133. Spirit, 151. Plus the spearmanship my soldier father drilled into me for 6 years before the beast tide took him, and his old breathing technique manual, the only inheritance this body had left. Yesterday, I was E rank trash with a birthday candle superpower. Today, I have an A rank flame and a space ability so rare that maybe a handful of people in the whole country had one. I raised my left hand, and a blaze with an eerie, pale core roared up, bending the air around it. This thing wasn't a fire starter. This thing had opinions about load-bearing walls. Then the system explained the economy. Kill things, earn ability points. Spend points on anything with a plus sign. Physique, spirit, ability rank, skill rank, basically experience points from the games of my past life, except the grind was real monsters and the death penalty was death. And one more chime, like Heaven's slot machine. Newbie mission, earn 1,000 ability points within 1 month. Reward, one ability of your choice goes up a full rank. A rank Bone Spirit Flame to S rank. S rank. The kind of talent that gets one person per 100,000. The kind that makes a whole city throw a parade. I was still grinning when the smell hit me. I looked down. My entire body was coated in a layer of sticky black grime, and it smelled like rotten eggs pickled in expired fish. The system had detoxed 18 years of impurities out of my pores all at once, and the result was a biological weapons violation. I spent half an hour in the shower scrubbing myself back into the human race, threw my clothes straight into the trash, and came out to discover my sleeves were suddenly short, taller, clearer skin. The system's newbie pack came with a free glow-up, which was thoughtful because the furniture certainly hadn't survived it. I ordered a new sofa, a set of battle armor for 100,000 yuan, grabbed my father's old spear, and went to the local martial arts gym to find out what I was actually worth now. 300 yuan for a private training room. Highway robbery. Inside stood the Chi and Blood Pillar, a big black column that measures how hard you hit, which is this world's version of the punching machine at an arcade, except the scores here decide your life. Bare Fist, 131. An ordinary awakened kid maxes out around 100, so nice. Spear Thrust, 166. The 6 years of drills my father beat into this body hadn't gone anywhere. Then I wrapped the spear in Bone Spirit Flame and hit the pillar again, 1631. A standard first-tier ability user hits for about 1,000. I hadn't even officially broken through to first tier, and I was already punching into the middle of their weight class. I tried my one battle technique, the roaming dragon gale break, the spear turning into a shrieking dragon of flame, 2256. The pillar developed a smoking crater and possibly trust issues. A rank, I whispered, is truly extraordinary. Then I walked out past the front desk, looked at my receipt, and muttered the eternal truth of the newly powerful. That's still damn expensive. Next morning at the school gate, I got a free demonstration of what fame looks like here. A handsome guy in a black trench coat walked past, in summer, which tells you everything, and half the street lost its mind. Duan Jian, the school's one and only A-rank genius, already a full ability user, already guaranteed a top university. Girls announced they wanted his babies. Boys muttered that he'd die of heat stroke, out of pure scientific concern. The old Zhao Ming used to watch him and ache with envy. I watched him and thought, buddy, I have your talent letter in my left hand, a space cube in my right, and a slot machine in my skull. I turned and walked to class without a second look. Zhang Kai was waiting at my desk with a grin. Holy crap, the master of oversleeping arrives early? Did the sun rise in the west? What, is it wrong to love learning? Come on, no more standing in line to buy Starbucks and tiramisu for a certain someone? Congratulations on graduating from simp school, bro. He patted my shoulder like a proud father, and I told him exactly where he could file that comment. And then, speak of the devil walked in carrying breakfast. Lin Ru came straight to my desk, smiled her patented sunrise smile, and politely evicted Zhang Kai from his seat. She set down a Starbucks coffee and a delicate little velvet cake, straightened her skirt, and went to work. Brother Ming, why did you block me? The day before yesterday, I was only joking. Big, wounded eyes, a voice soft enough to spread on toast. 2 years of that voice had cost the previous owner his savings, and then his life. I twirled my pen and asked one flat question. And you and Goulet, also a joke? One flicker of panic, gone in half a second, and then more sincerity, more hurt. Don't you understand my feelings? The formula was so smooth it deserved a patent. I said, I understand. 3 words. She beamed like the weather had cleared, told me to eat my breakfast while it was hot, and walked off with the light step of a woman who believes her ATM has been successfully rebooted. The second she was gone, my classmates descended on my desk like seagulls. Lin Ru brought you breakfast? Starbucks? Are you two together? You want it? Here. I handed the whole tribute over to the crowd. It vanished in 10 seconds flat, to a chorus of, it's a bit bitter, this costs more than my lunch, the cake's too small to fill a tooth gap. Lin Ru found out after class, when she came back for round 2 and a random classmate thanked her, mouth still full, for the delicious cake. She said you ate it, in the voice of a woman being told her stock portfolio was a lie. Her face did something complicated, and I heard her hiss my name behind me like a kettle. You'll regret this. Let's see how long you keep up this act. Ma'am, I wasn't acting. I was leaving. I had an appointment in Teacher Song's office to request a leave of absence. Every rich kid in class was skipping school for private exam prep courses at fancy Marshall halls, so the excuse was ready-made. Teacher Song assumed a poor orphan had somehow scraped together tuition, sighed, made me promise to attend mornings, and signed the slip. She thought I was going to a gym. My actual training plan had more teeth in it. The forest on the western outskirts of Qingshui City is technically a monster habitat, but the army culls it regularly, so it's the shallow end of the apocalypse. Mostly ferocious beasts, the non-magical kind, with the occasional first-order magical beast deeper in. The guards at the checkpoint did a double-take at the teenage boy in fresh armor asking to go monster hunting alone, gave me the don't go deep speech, and let me through with the expressions of men already composing my obituary. 10 minutes in, a bush rustled. My nerves fired before my brain did. Spear up, white flame on, full thrust into the noise. One yowl, one thump, ding. One ferocious beast killed. Ability points +3. I pushed the bushes aside and found a leopard-sized cat with yellow fur, purple eyes, and a brand new hole in its skull. The purple-eyed demon cat. Textbook nickname, the newcomer killer, ambush predator, jungle assassin, terror of exam candidates everywhere. Dead before I even saw it clearly. That death was too easy, I told the corpse. Honestly, a little disappointed. I didn't even get a taste. The forest heard that and took it personally. The second customer of the day was an iron-haired wild boar. 2 meters of pig with metallic bristles, which I recognized from school training exercises and therefore approached with the confidence of a man greeting an old classmate. The old classmate charged me like a runaway tank, snapped a 3-story tree in half, and taught me in one heartbeat the difference between the sedated teaching pigs at school and the genuine article. I stopped being cute, timed the charge, and put the spear through its eye at 1.5 meters, close enough to smell my own funeral. Ability points +5. And one free lesson. This world's school system had been showing us petting zoo versions of things that actually eat people. No wonder candidates died every year. So I did it the honest way. Every day for 2 weeks, home, school in the morning, forest until dark, cats, boars, armored bulls. The points crawled up, 22, 46, 75, 104. I hauled boar legs home for the checkpoint guards until they greeted me like a delivery service. My hands stopped shaking. My thrusts got shorter and meaner. The forest turned from a horror movie into a commute. And then, halfway through the month, the commute grew a boss fight. The roar came first, with a stench baked into the sound wave, and then the trees came down, and out of the smoke walked the blazing flame demon tiger. 3-4 meters of predator wrapped in living fire, a top-tier, first-order magical beast, the kind of thing whole squads of adult ability users treat with respect. Its claws left scorch marks in the dirt. Every sane instinct said run. I heard myself say, finally, a worthy opponent. The transmigrator disease is real, and it is terminal. Round 1, it swiped, I dodged, and my counterthrust skated off its skull armor in a shower of sparks like I'd stabbed a bank vault. Round 2, I fed everything into the spear, met its claw head-on, and got launched like a kite with commentary. The claw I'd hit was bleeding through a 10-centimeter gash, mine from a full power exchange, 1 gash. Its expression suggested I'd given it a paper cut and it planned to discuss this. So I stopped being brave and started being a doctor. Every body has weak points, and I'd spent 11 years learning where humans keep theirs. Tigers file theirs in the same drawer. I flickered through its blind spots on the space ability, bled its charges with hit and run, and when it overextended, I put the spear somewhere no anatomy is armored. The scream that came out of that tiger was personal. It sat down hard, bleeding like a fountain, and I circled at a polite distance while its fury drained into the dirt. Because I'm a hunter, not a duelist, and the tiger didn't get a vote on the format. It saved one last ambush for when I came close. The classic dying lunge, jaws wide. I stepped into the mouth instead of away from it, blinked sideways off the space ability, and gave it the roaming dragon gale break through the throat at 0 range. The explosion took out the back of its neck and my last doubts about this build. Ding! First rank, high-level magical beast defeated. Ability points +20. 20. I looked at the mountain of dead apex predator, then at the number, and felt the first cold breeze of a truth that would haunt me later. My system pays like a warehouse job, but the tiger had a consolation prize inside its skull, a red crystal, a magic core, the crown jewel of the monster economy. Cores get refined into elixirs that boost cultivation, get forged into weapons that amplify abilities, and get fought over by everyone with money. I harvested the tiger down to its most sellable parts, hiked out, and took my bulging backpack to Wanning Street, the city's monster parts bazaar, to a little shop run by a fat, smiling, middle-aged man everyone called Fatty Wang, who had spent 2 weeks buying my cheap goods and telling me to bring better ones. I dumped a small mountain of first-order beast materials on his floor and watched the jokes die in his throat. He picked up the burnt striped tiger hide, sniffed it, scratched it, and looked at me like the furniture had started singing. "This is Blazing Flame Demon Tiger. You have that kind of strength, kid?" "Luck," I said. "Luck." Then I put the magic core on the counter and watched a grown businessman fall in love. He paid me the top rate for the lot, 100,000 yuan into my card, plus an offer to arrange my future if the exam went badly, because Fatty Wang collects useful people the way other men collect stamps. I thanked him and filed him under exactly that category myself. And then, with the exam breathing down my neck, deep in the forest, I pinned one last snake-tailed leopard through the eye socket, and the chime I'd been grinding toward for a month finally played. 1,005 ability points. Newbie mission complete. Choose an ability to upgrade. A rank to S rank versus C rank to B rank. This is what we in the medical field call a non-decision. Bone spirit flame, I said, and my own fire began to eat itself. The white flames collapsed inward into a dot of pitch black, and out of that dot poured something new. Ink-dark energy shot through with dancing green ghost light, cold on the surface and hungry underneath. The upgrade bar in my head crawled to 100, and the system announced it like a birth. A rank bone spirit flame has evolved into S rank nether ghost fire. Soul flame, the primordial fire of the underworld. It doesn't just burn the body, it reaches through the body and burns the thing wearing it. I stood alone in the forest wrapped in green ghost light, the legendary talent tier of national heroes now sitting in my chest, and walked home calm as a man carrying a winning lottery ticket in his sock. That night, I ate a leg of first-order leopard, which tastes like victory slow-cooked in soy sauce, and did my accounting. 1,000 banked points went into my body, blood and chi to 227, spirit to 257. Both more than double a normal awakened kid, both now capped until I leveled up. The exchange rate stung, 1 point for a fifth of a stat, but compare it to the market price of chi blood potions, and my system was still the cheapest gym in the country. 1 month ago, this body opened its own wrists over an E-rank certificate and a fake girlfriend. Tomorrow morning, it was taking the martial arts college entrance exam with an S-rank soulfire, a space ability, and a spear that had personally offended every species in the western forest. Qingshui City had no idea what was about to walk into its exam. Exam week opened with 1 day of written tests, which I passed on the strength of actually attending school in 2 lifetimes, and then came the real morning. 50 armored buses on the school playground, 2,000 candidates. Parents everywhere, whispering advice and openly crying, because in this world, sending your kids to the college entrance exam includes a non-zero chance of receiving them back in a bag. I stood in the Class 6 formation alone, no one to see me off, watching other families hug, and let myself feel that for exactly 1 bus ride. The exam site was a place called Ruin Town, a dead city out in the wilderness, fenced in high-voltage wire, pre-stocked by the military with monsters like the world's worst petting zoo. On the platform in front of it stood a middle-aged officer whose stare alone pressed the whole crowd half a size shorter. Chief Director Bai Jun. No microphone. Didn't need one. The rules delivered like hammer blows. 10 hours. 10 in the morning to 8 at night. 4 zones. Outer ring for regular beasts. Middle ring where the first order magical beasts start. Core ring for the serious ones. And the deepest heart of the map where a second tier magical beast lives, which for an exam full of not yet first tier teenagers is less a test question and more a landmark to be admired from a religious distance. Kill things. Earn points. Higher rank pays more. No fighting other candidates on pain of military law. Everyone gets a smartwatch with a live map and a silver metal ball, a one-use energy shield that will save your life and end your exam in the same moment, because pressing it means you gave up. Did you hear me clearly? He roared, and 2,000 teenagers roared back, and the man permitted himself one cold degree of satisfaction. Then came the free 40 minutes before the gates, which the crowd used for team recruitment and which Fate used to stage a small theater production about my social standing. Teams split points, so strong loners go solo. That was my plan, since sharing experience points is against my religion. But Zhang Kai came bouncing over anyway, arms wide. I knew you'd be standing here single. Our team needs one more. Come on, brother. Before I could even refuse him, his teammate Zhou Xing arrived at a run, face like a storm front. Have you lost your mind, Zhang Kai? We need a person, not a burden. Why are you dragging in an E-rank piece of trash? Loud enough for everyone. Then, warming up, he turned and pointed across the clearing at another team. Look, isn't Zhao Ming close with Lin Ru? Their team's way stronger. Go latch onto their coattails. Oh, wait, they probably wouldn't take your kind of skills either, would they? And there they were, Goulet with his arms crossed, sneering at volume. Our team's too small for a god like E-rank over here. A loser should know his place. Lin Ru beside him, watching me get carved up in public with the serene face of a woman enjoying dessert. The crowd around us went quiet in that hungry way crowds do. Sympathy, schadenfreude, popcorn. I didn't look at any of them. I patted Zhang Kai on the shoulder. Thanks, Lao Jiang. I was always going in solo. Go with your team. And that's when my best friend, in front of everyone, with a university seat on the line, made the worst tactical decision of his life. He swung his arm and said, "No, you guys go ahead. I'm teaming with Mingzi." Zhou Xing's scream could have registered on the exam's monster sensors. You're throwing away your future for a piece of trash? Zhang Kai just stiffened his neck like a goose and said, I'm perfectly clear-headed. I'm with Mingzi. Zhou Xing said, good, 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 3 times, which in angry person means very bad, and stormed off to find replacements. I looked at this idiot. This loyal, glorious idiot who just bet his life prospects on damaged goods. Warmth is not my default setting, but it got in anyway, so I handled it the only way I know how. I put my arm around his shoulder and told him he'd just stepped in the luckiest dog poop of his life, and that if he sincerely called me dad, I'd carry him into the provincial top 100. He pressed the back of his hand to my forehead to check for fever. Top scorer of Xizang province? You? An E rank? Even novels wouldn't dare write that. Mingzi, the pressure has broken you. Ask me again in 10 hours, I said. The whistle blew. The gates of ruined town opened like a mouth, and 2,000 kids in armor poured in screaming their dreams, and the mouth swallowed all of it. Inside, Zhang Kai and I peeled away from the herd, and I started paying my new debt immediately. Because here's the thing about a best friend whose combat education came from sedated school pigs. His first real purple-eyed demon cat nearly took his face off, and only my shout got his knife up in time. He killed it, then sat down in the blood, hands shaking, and stared at me while I strolled over and asked if he needed a nap. Then he watched me work. Watched me drop an iron-haired wild boar with one thrust, no ability, spear only. Watched 4 thick armored bulls charge us at a crossroads and heard me call it, Old Chen, 3 for me, 1 for you, let's be quick. 3 thrusts, 3 bulls, eye, spine, eye, while he hacked his one bull into submission and repainted himself with sweat. He finished, panting, leaning on his sword, and I could see the worldview repairs happening behind his eyes in real time. Textbook line 1. Ability users win with abilities. Field observation. His E-rank buddy hadn't switched his ability on all morning and was farming first-order beasts like vegetables, saving every drop of energy for a 10-hour exam while the geniuses around the map burned theirs by the minute. 2 hours in, we hit the edge of the middle ring, and I checked my other scoreboard, the secret one. 488 ability points. Sitting right next to a plus sign on my spearmanship. I'd been saving for a rainy day. It was raining monsters. I pressed the plus. 400 points burned, and 30 years of another man's training poured into my body like a transfusion. Sun and frost and 10,000 mornings of drills I never lived through. Cracked palms healing around a spear shaft. All of it compressed into 1 second of downloading. Spearmanship. Great success. I flicked my wrist to test it and put 4 thrusts into the air so fast they sounded like one, and somewhere behind me, Zhang Kai made a noise like a kettle. Mingzi, did your spearmanship just break through again? Standing there, in the dirt. Talent, I told him solemnly, and a good father. Both true, technically. The new hands wanted a test, so I found them one. A collapsed apartment block that my senses said was full of wolves. 7 Gale wolf beasts, all first order, 1 wolf king pushing mid-tier. I told Zhang Kai to wait outside, walked in, and the neighborhood got very loud and then very quiet. When he came in, he found 7 large corpses and me wiping the spear, and he asked in a small voice exactly how strong I was now. Guess, I said, because I'm a wonderful friend. And right then, Zhou Xing's team walked in. 5 of them patched together after Zhang Kai's defection, staggering into the middle ring at the absolute limit of their collective ability, and into a courtyard carpeted with 7 first-order wolf corpses, blood still wet, with only 2 people standing in it. The mental arithmetic on their faces was beautiful. They didn't believe it. Of course they didn't believe it. So one of them did the sensible thing and pulled up the live rankings, where the top 100 of 2,000 candidates scrolls in real time. 77th place, Zhao Ming, 247 points. 83rd, Zhang Kai, 236. 5 people stood in the ruins doing synchronized statue impressions. Their whole team's combined score roughly equaled the E-rank trash they'd publicly thrown away that morning. Zhou Xing's throat moved and nothing came out. Zhang Kai, magnificent, said only, it was Mingzi who did it, and let the arithmetic finish them off. Meanwhile, back at the command center, because, oh yes, there's a command center, a tent full of principals and military brass watching 2,000 tiny dots and betting on which school's darlings crack the provincial rankings. A homeroom teacher named Teacher Song spotted 2 familiar names on the big board and nearly fell out of his chair. The same Teacher Song who'd spent a month gently steering me toward the safe track. He rubbed his eyes. He asked the ceiling how this was possible. The ceiling declined to comment. I left Zhang Kai with Zhou Xing's group, safer for him, faster for me, and went solo into the deep middle ring, where my afternoon took a hard turn off the experience points highway. Because 100 meters southwest, behind a broken wall, I heard 2 voices I knew arguing. Gu Lei and Lin Ru, cornered by a pair of snake-tailed leopards, their teammates already eliminated, screaming blame at each other. And since neither of them knew anyone was listening, they got honest. You had one job, Gu Lei was snarling. Keep that idiot Zhao Ming on the hook and keep milking him. I was this close to breaking through to first tier on his money. The pills, the body-tempering fluids, all bought with that dead parent's compensation of his, and you let him block you? And her voice, stripped of all the softness, shrill and ugly. How was I supposed to know the simp would grow a spine? Didn't I lower myself and go coax him again? Who does he think he is? So there it was. Not a girl who got bored. A farm. 2 years of manufactured tenderness, engineered to strip a grieving orphan of his parents' death money and funnel it into her boyfriend's cultivation. The boy whose body I wear didn't kill himself over heartbreak. He was harvested. I stopped hearing the forest. I kicked the wall down and walked out of the dust, and I genuinely don't remember deciding to. They spun around, recognized me, and, this is the part that still amazes me, defaulted to contempt. You hid here eavesdropping? And when I asked, very quietly, for an explanation, Lin Ru chose violence. You E-rank trash, you didn't actually think I'd like you? Look in a mirror. If your parents hadn't died and left you that fat compensation, you wouldn't be worthy to carry my shoes, you jinx. A couple of tears and a kind word, and you came running with your wallet open, you complete idiot. And Goulet, grinning, actually thanked me for sponsoring his strength and asked if I had any pills left, since a good-for-nothing like me wouldn't pass the exam anyway. They were still performing their little comedy special when the snake-tailed leopard dropped off the roof above them. Life and death reflexes are honest ones. Goulet grabbed Lin Ru and shoved her at the leopard while jumping backward himself, screaming at me to hold it off. 2 years of romance, 1 second of physics. I killed it in the air. 1 thrust, all the ghost fire I had, straight through its open mouth, and the explosion rained leopard on all 3 of us. Then I turned, dripping, wrapped in green flame, and started walking toward them, and I watched 2 predators discover in real time what it feels like to be prey. Lin Ru's legs gave out. A smell told me the rest. Goulet, to his sole credit as a survivor, slapped his shield ball with both hands, and the high-voltage dome snapped up around them both, ending their exams and saving their lives in one motion. He hid behind the electricity and lectured me about the rules. Murder is a crime. You'll be disqualified. You'll go to jail. And he was right, which is the only reason both of them kept breathing. I stood at the fence with my spear, breathed the smell of burnt leopard until my hands unclenched, and left them 1 sentence through the wire. You want to live? Fine. After the exam, you'd better have enough money ready to buy my life back from me, and it had better satisfy me. Then I vanished before the rescue team arrived, because the rescue team gets paid to protect quails, and there was nothing left in that courtyard worth my time. I want to say I calmed down after that. What actually happened is the Middle Ring's monster population experienced an unscheduled extinction event. For over an hour, I didn't stop moving. Every roar was an invitation. Every den was a checkpoint, the space ability flickering me across the map in zigzags that made my dot on the command center's screen look like a lie detector having a breakdown. Rage makes terrible decisions and excellent numbers. By the time I sat down to grill a leopard leg over my own Ghostfire, my ranking had rocketed from the hundreds into the top 40, and the command center tent had begun the first of its several scheduled meltdowns. Because here's what was happening back there while I ate lunch. Teachers from my school asking each other whose top-class prodigy this Zhao Ming was. The top-class teacher denying ownership. The question rippling backward through the rows until it hit poor teacher Song, who was forced to confess, in front of everyone, that the mystery genius was the E-rank kid from his ordinary class. The reaction was unanimous, impossible, system error, a kid with the same name. They would rather believe the military's monitoring software was broken than believe an E-rank was eating the leaderboard. So I finished my leopard and gave them more data. Core Ring, where the monsters come in organized packs with actual leadership, where the top 10 candidates tiptoe in teams, and where one idiot with a spear went in loudly and alone, on purpose, because searching for prey wastes time and being hunted saves it. The beeps came like a slot machine paying out. Wolf packs, lizard dens, a mid-tier pack leader every few minutes. 38th place, 31st, 25th, 18th, 12th, and at 12th, the exam's broadcasting rules did me a favor I hadn't planned for. Crack the top 10, and the system automatically locks a camera on you and puts your live feed on the command center's main screen. 9th place, the screen flipped, and every principal, every teacher, every officer in that tent got their first look at the province's mystery genius, a skinny 18-year-old in scuffed black armor, standing on a pile of first-order corpses, who looked up at the drone like he could feel them watching. It really is him, Teacher Song whispered, and by all reports, nearly achieved liftoff. The bosses demanded answers. What's this kid's talent? Which tier is he? And Teacher Song, sweating through his shirt in front of the education director and the military commander, croaked out the truth. As far as I know, it's E. They were still laughing at that when the screen gave them the tiger. A blazing flame demon tiger. Same species as my old friend from the Western Forest, a top-tier, first-order monster, parked on a ruined building and roaring at me like a landlord. The tent went silent. On paper, this was where the miracle kid dies on the main screen. And I made it worse, because I recognized the species, got nostalgic, and decided to test my new stats with an honest, head-on charge, which is how the entire leadership of Qingshe City watched me get swatted through a wall like a green comet. In my defense, valuable data. The spear bent, half my armor tore, and the assembled dignitaries learned that I bounce, because I stood up out of the rubble, spat, muttered something the cameras thankfully didn't catch, and switched from pride to craft. Ghost fireballs to break its rhythm. Great success spearwork carving its joints, eyes, throat line, every soft target the beast owned, opened one by one, the soul fire leaking into each wound and burning it from the inside where no hide could help. The tiger that had one-shotted me in a fair exchange spent the next minutes discovering there would be no more fair exchanges. When it finally staggered, I ended it through the throat, and the command center, per multiple witnesses, forgot it was full of adults. The E-rank kid had soloed a first-rank, high-level magical beast on live camera. 6th place. Then the scores kept ticking, and the tent watched the impossible one become inevitable. 5th, 3rd, 2nd, and past the untouchable Hang Yu of No. 1 high school into 1st place, with the gap still growing. The The whole city's brass stood there watching my name sit on top of their leaderboard, and the strange thing, they'd say later, was that nobody gasped. After the last 2 hours, first place just looked like where I lived. Han Yu did not agree with the arrangement. Han Yu was #1 high school's crown jewel, the recognized king of our generation in this city, and his school had held the top exam spot for 10 straight years. Somewhere out in the ruins, his teammate showed him the leaderboard, and I'm told the silence was expensive. Then he made the only move that could beat my farming speed. He summoned every elite #1 high had in the exam, pointed at the deepest red circle on the map, and declared they were going to kill the second-tier magical beast, the landmark, the one worth a mountain of points, the thing no candidate had beaten in years, which, coincidentally, was also where I was headed, because the core ring had run out of things to kill. All roads led to the cold pool. The deepest heart of Ruintown was an abandoned park drowned in freezing mist, with a pool at the center, and in the pool lived the frost spirit snake. I arrived in time to watch #1 high's siege from behind a tree, and friends, it was educational. 15 elites, A-rank talents, coordinated like a drill team, led by Han Yu's lightning sword and boosted by a support girl named Lin Yu, amplifying the whole squad. And the snake, a water tower thick monster in dark blue ice armor, took their combined best hits like light rain. Blades sparked off, energy attacks got absorbed, then it flicked its tail and 2 kids flew away coughing blood, and its breath froze a third one's arm solid inside his shield trigger. I had come here with vague ideas about soloing that thing. Standing behind my tree, watching the city's entire genius class bounce off it, I quietly folded those ideas into a paper airplane and let them go. The gap between first tier and second tier isn't a gap, it's a tax bracket. But I did have one option nobody else in this exam had. I found a quiet corner, opened the panel, and looked at my war chest. 2,253 ability points, freshly harvested from the core ring. Level, still technically awakened. Yes, I'd been out-farming the city's full ability users all day without even being one yet, which was funny right up until you looked at that snake. Time to stop being funny. 500 points. Breakthrough. The mad sea breathing method roared to full cycle on autopilot. My meridians widened like someone renovating a highway, and I stood up a genuine first-tier ability user. The panel offered me more. 1,200 points. First tier, intermediate. Strength, speed, energy pool, everything jumped again. 200 more into my father's battle technique, and the roaming dragon gale break settled into my muscles at a level he'd have needed years to give me. 353 points left. Poverty. Glorious, well-invested poverty. Back at the pool, #1 high's siege was dying by inches. Lin Yu's boost network was the only thing keeping them alive, and the snake figured that out, because second-tier monsters are smart. That's the horrifying part. And it stopped defending, ate their attacks with its body, and went straight for the support girl with 3 ice spikes that would have turned her into an exhibit. She didn't die. 2 rescuers had been standing invisible in the trees the whole time. An Yuan Shan and Zhou Tie, the military's insurance policy for the city's precious seedlings. Zhou Tie crossed the battlefield in a blink and crushed all 3 ice spikes barehanded, like ice cream cones that had disappointed him. An Yuan Shan met the enraged snake's charge with one wind-wrapped fist and knocked a bus-sized monster back into its pool. Then they stepped back into the shade and told the kids, mildly, to know their limits. That was the end of #1 high's war. Han Yu stood there with blood on his teeth and looked at his broken squad. 7 left standing out of 17, and swallowed the order to continue. His people told him it wasn't his fault. He turned around and led them out with the walk of a man carrying all of it anyway. And I'll be honest, the arrogant golden boy earned my respect in that retreat. They'd bet everything on their school's honor and been ground down to nothing, and not one of them cried about it. While #1 high bled itself against the snake, I got company behind my tree. Duan Jian, my school's trenchcoat celebrity himself, arrived, leading a joint squad of #2 and #3 high elites. All of them starved for targets, because between me and Han Yu's people, the core ring had been strip-mined clean. He'd apparently spent half the exam hunting for the mystery schoolmate topping the board, and now here I was, and he was all charm and curiosity. Zhao Ming, right? I've heard so much. Which class were you even in? Want to team up? The beasts out here are too strong for solo work. 10 hours ago, that sentence from that mouth would have restructured the old owner's whole year. I said, no need, and walked off mid-conversation, because every beast this man's squad killed was coming out of my paycheck. Behind me, one of his boys sputtered about my arrogance, and Duan Jian, give him credit, just laughed and said, let him be. He's earned it. He's ahead of that monster Han Yu. Then the audience, shun, because by now half the surviving elite candidates had gathered on the hillside, watched #1 high's retreat and pronounced the exam over. Even the suicide squad failed. Nothing left to see. Which is when I stood up, picked up my spear, and started walking toward the pool. The reaction was instant and unanimous. Are you insane? 15 of them failed. Have you no shame? Rubbing salt in #1 high's wounds. Attention seeker. Wait and watch the clown die. Even the command center got in on it, the top brass frowning. #1 high's teachers spitting feathers about disrespect. My own principal praying quietly into his sweaty palms. Somewhere in that tent, one teacher said what everyone thought. Han Yu plus 14 elites couldn't do it. And this kid walks up alone? Correct. Alone. Plus 3 details nobody in that tent had on file. 1. Their snake was pre-softened, bleeding through cracked armor from number 1 High's whole war. Thank you for your service, seniors. Sincerely. 2. I was now a first-tier intermediate ability user with stats double my weight class. 3. My fire doesn't care about armor, it burns souls, and ice, as a material, has famously poor opinions about fire. The snake spat an ice spike. I met it head-on with a basic sweep, and the shockwave staggered me one step, and the hillside went quiet mid-heckle. It sent 3 more. I let them land, let the ice dust swallow me whole, let everybody enjoy their 2 seconds of being right about the clown, and then walked out of the cloud wearing full ghost fire armor, steam screaming off me, and gave the audience their new headline, Green Flame. Not E-rank orange, not A-rank white. A color of fire that made 3 separate A-rank geniuses on that hillside say the same 2 letters out loud. The fight took 10 minutes, and it was the hardest 10 minutes of my new life. Its tail moved like a whip the size of a bridge. Its breath froze the ground I'd stood on half a second earlier. But every fireball I landed on those pre-cracked scales hissed straight through, and the thing that had shrugged off 15 elites started screaming, not at the burns, at what the burns were touching. I carved its old wounds wider, drained it lap by lap, and when it finally broke and dove for the deep water, I put everything I had left into one roaming dragon gale break and hit it somewhere vital at full extension. The snake came out of the sky like a derailed train, plowed a 10-meter trench, lifted its head one last time, and died. Silence in Ruin Town. Silence in the command center. On the hillside, 100 elite candidates stood with their faces doing something complicated, watching the school's designated clown lean on his spear next to a dead second-tier landmark. And in that beautiful, historic, perfectly cinematic silence, I lost my temper on live camera. Because the system chimed. Ding! 1 low-level second-tier magical beast killed. Ability points plus 67. 67. 67. The monster was worth 10 high-level first orders in any sane economy, and my system, my supposed golden cheat, priced it like 4 of them. I stood over the corpse of the greatest kill in this city's exam history and screamed at the sky about my hard-earned money, shaking my fist at a pay stub only I could see, while the entire command center watched their new provincial hope apparently have a breakdown. The commander cleared his throat and suggested to the room that young people are often moved to tears. The room made supportive noises. Nobody believed him. It looked, one witness said, like the grief of the man robbed of millions, which, for the record, is exactly what it was. My system is a black-hearted middleman, and I will die on this hill. Then I checked the other score, the public one, and shut up fast. The snake had paid 1,000 exam points. Total, 6,753. Second place, Han Yu, 4,233. And one more number the crowd dug up within minutes. Last year's top scorer of the entire province finished at 6,580. A county town nobody had just outscored last year's provincial champion. The exam ended at 8 sharp. The watches flashed the ceasefire, and 2,000 survivors opened their leaderboards at the same time and made the ruins echo. I came out of the gates near the end, having spent the final stretch farming ability points that no longer counted for score, because my system doesn't observe ceasefires. What I walked into was 2,000 people and every official in the city, waiting, cheering, chanting, girls confessing at industrial volume. The education director leading a round of applause with tears of budget increases in his eyes. Hours earlier, half this crowd wouldn't have teamed with me at gunpoint. But before the cheering, there was the other thing, and I won't joke about this part. While we waited for stragglers, the trucks came out of Ruin Town. Not all of them carried monster corpses. One stopped at the camp, and the soldiers unloaded stretchers, dozens of them, with tarps that didn't cover everything. Kids who'd walked in that morning through the same gate. The crowd sobbing started immediately, names being screamed at covered shapes, and then an officer stepped forward and cut through all of it with a voice like a blade. When you fight beasts, how can people not die? You chose this path because ability users are given everything: status, resources, privilege. That privilege is bought with exactly this: your lives, spent between the monster's teeth so the people behind the walls never have to learn what they look like. 2,000 teenagers stood in the smell of blood and got the only lesson that day that mattered. I stood with them. Somewhere behind the fence was the wall my parents died on. I didn't cheer with everyone at the scoreboard after that. I just carried it. And at the very edge of the crowd, one more scene played out that I only heard about later. Lin Ru, gray-faced among the classmates, being teased by girlfriends about her great taste in men, until someone said my name, at which point she screamed like she'd been burned, crouched down with her hands over her head, and begged the air to let her go. The exam had ended hours ago. Hers apparently hadn't. I'd told her to save up. I meant it. Some invoices don't expire. The next few days were an education in how adults handle miracles. First problem, paperwork. The national database still listed me as E-rank, and I'd spent the exam broadcasting S-rank soulfire to an audience of officials. I lay awake, genuinely wondering how to explain that one. Hello, Principal. I'm actually a cheater with a game system. Please don't dissect me. But when Principal Fan Lei summoned me to his office, laughing so hard the windows buzzed, he solved my problem for me before I opened my mouth. Aha, he cried, stomping his foot. I know what happened. You awakened right after your parents' tragedy. The psychological shock suppressed your true potential. Now that your heart is healed, the S rank has naturally emerged. Yes, that must be it, you poor child. I stood there watching this kind old man invent, polish, and emotionally commit to my cover story in real time, complete with himself as the witness, and all I had to do was nod and look moved. Principal, I said, you're absolutely right. It's like a wake-up call. He got so pleased he personally arranged the record correction with the Ability User Association. Some days the universe just hands you a free NPC with a quest marker. But then the same old man sat me down, and the laughing stopped, and he gave me the most valuable hour of my new life, because I'd been planning to coast. I had a system. University was going to be a scenic backdrop for my grinding. Any campus would do. And Fan Lei, not knowing any of that, took one look at my polite indifference and went through it like a wrecking ball. He talked about the 5 greats, the 5 top universities of the nation, and what actually separates them from everywhere else. Not prestige, resources, breathing techniques you cannot buy at any price that cut a 10-year breakthrough down to 6 months, battle technique libraries centuries deep, mentors above 6th tier, pills at cost, and all of it rationed out through one merciless funnel, visibility. Schools aren't fair, he said. Resources flow to the most dazzling, the most daring. You're a commoner genius with no family behind you. Keeping a low profile is a privilege of the protected. People like us should be wolves. Fight, compete, grab. Make them see you, take their best, and then take your gun back to the wall your parents died on and settle the account. I went home, actually did the research, and got scared in hindsight. The gap between the 5 greats and a normal university isn't Tsinghua versus a state school. It's a different food chain. 9th tier legends on the alumni list. 20% of the national resource budget split 5 ways, and me, the genius, had nearly waved it off because I had a slot machine in my head. A system gives you points. It does not give you an S-rank breathing technique, a master's guidance, or a library built on centuries of dead men's insights. That night, I stopped planning to coast. 5 greats or nothing. Amusingly, while I was upgrading my ambitions, the 5 greats were busy downgrading me. Because in Kyoto Ability University's admissions office, top school in the country, a room full of recruiters was speedrunning the national rankings. And when they hit Xizang province, 3rd place, Jiaoming, 6,743, the reaction was a collective shrug. S-rank fire, sure, but fire's common. Only 1st tier intermediate, slow cultivation. No name city, no name school, no family. And the exam footage? They watched me kill the frost spirit snake, noticed it was pre-wounded, and wrote the whole thing off as an opportunist finishing another team's kill. Verdict, rating S-. Meets the threshold, don't waste resources. The recruiter Xu Tao got handed my file like a chore on his way to sign the real prospects. Fate has a sense of humor about these things, and it was already loading the punchline. Meanwhile, my other invoice got paid. Zhang Kai showed up at my door clutching a black plastic bag like he'd robbed a bank, babbling that Gu Lei had shoved it at him, looking like a man who hadn't slept in days, and then moved out of the city overnight, and Lin Ru had simply vanished. Inside the bag, over 100,000 yuan in rubber-banded cash, plus stacks of chi blood pills and body-tempering fluids. The principal returned with interest, and the debtors self-deported. I snorted, said they ran fast, and tossed all the pills to Zhang Kai, since my system considered store-bought supplements beneath its dignity. Zhang Kai, deeply moved and deeply greedy, resolved the awkwardness of accepting charity by unscrewing a bottle of body-tempering fluid and chugging it in front of me. Small problem. That stuff is for external use. You bathe in it. He spent the evening at my dinner table, sweating like a fountain and walking like a question mark, and I have never enjoyed cooking for someone more. And the command center, in that final hour, discovered feelings. Teacher Song, who a month earlier had begged me toward the safe track, sat doing trembling arithmetic on homeroom bonuses for a city champion, then went pale remembering his own advice. Then decided history would record him as the wise mentor who forged me, all within 90 seconds, visibly on his face. My principal and #1 highs principal performed a handshake so loaded it needed a customs declaration. Congratulations, old Lu, what hidden depths your school has, delivered through teeth you could hear from the back row. And the education director gazed at my score with the wet-eyed tenderness of a man watching his own promotion being born, and announced a special commendation before the exam gates had even closed. One afternoon of killing monsters, and I'd somehow advanced 6 careers. The food chain above a prodigy eats very well. Then came the boredom. 5 days of mandated waiting. The Education Bureau had made it very clear that the city's one-in-a-generation hope was to stay put and shiny until the university recruiters arrived. By day 5, I was climbing the walls, so I compromised, got my official ability user certification, then went to stretch my legs in the wilderness 30 kilometers out. Just a light stroll, casually killing whatever was rude enough to ambush me. What ambushed me was a 2-headed lion mastiff beast. 2nd tier, in its prime, 2 heads with 2 different elements, wind blades from the left mouth, fire pillars from the right, and unlike my exam snake, nobody had softened this one up first. The fight was loud, long, and honest. Fire dragon versus fire pillar, spear versus storm, and it ended with my roaming dragon gale break punching a hole between each set of eyebrows, 1-2, in a single extension. A healthy second tier, soloed clean, no discount, no assist. And then a voice went, "Ha ha ha, good," from the bushes, and my soul briefly left through my ears. A middle-aged man walked out of cover, radiating mid-tier ability user the way a furnace radiates heat, looked me up and down like a jeweler who'd found a diamond in a parking lot, said, "Impressive skills, kid, looking forward to seeing you again," and vanished. I stood there sweating over how long he'd been watching and how very dead I'd have been if he was hostile, packed my mastiff parts at double speed, and speed-walked home. That was Su Tao, the Kyoto recruiter passing through on his way to sign me as a discount obligation, who had just personally witnessed the opportunist solo a prime second tier in open field. He reportedly danced. He called his director on the spot, staked his professional word that the S- was a catastrophic misread, and got my rating bumped to full S, a decision that was about to cost his rival schools a fortune. The results dropped. Written score plus exam, 6,973 total, third place in all of Xizang province. The city lost its mind. And the next morning, in the principal's office, 5 recruiters from all 5 great universities sat in a row for the ritual known as the Special Admissions Auction, with me as the lot. It went like an auction too. Wudu University, 4 million yuan, full ride, an S-rank resource package, custom equipment. Yudu, 5 million and better trimmings. Chengdu and Shanghai, whose recruiters had already bagged the province's top 2 and were mostly here out of politeness, 3.5, 3.8. Principal Liu was quietly hyperventilating in the corner at numbers bigger than his school's budget. Then Su Tao of Kyoto put down his teacup and ended the game. Everything the other 4 offered, at the highest standard, 6 million, and 2 S-rank resource packages. The room made a noise like a punctured tire. 2 S-rank resources is top scholar treatment. The packages contain things you cannot price, S-rank breathing techniques, S-rank battle manuals, and every other school's hands were tied by their own rating rules. S- prospects get 1. Kyoto had quietly re-rated me, and the other 4 had brought knives to an artillery duel and didn't even know why. I chose Kyoto in one sentence, signed the special contract, took the glowing admission letter, and shook hands with the one recruiter in the country who'd bothered to actually watch me fight. The city government threw in a 2 million reward. 8 million total, plus a photo op at the school gate where the education director beamed like a man watching his promotion materialize. And that evening, Zhang Kai dragged me to the fanciest revolving restaurant in the city, ordered the entire right side of the menu at maximum volume, loudly announced my net worth to the whole floor, and toasted me with genuine tears in his eyes between mouthfuls of dragon spine meat. "Rob the rich," he declared. "That's what brothers are for." I let him. Some taxes you pay happily. Then, because a system doesn't feed itself, I spent the entire summer in the real wilderness zone. Not the tame western forest, the actual frontier, hundreds of kilometers out, past a fortified military base at a supply town called Blue Sky where adventurers stage out into monster country. I'd pictured a grim outpost. I got a neon boomtown, weapon shops, repair stalls, chambers of commerce buying blood-soaked loot at markup, and certain entertainment venues that Chow Fei, a local kid who appointed himself my tour guide off the transport, pointed out with a face I chose not to examine. He walked me through the whole ecosystem, where huge profits meet daily death. A town always grows. Then got serious at the door of the Adventurers Association. Register, get the satellite watch, and for heaven's sake, join a team, rookie. The real wilderness doubles the danger of anything you've seen. I listened, for once. Registered as a bronze adventurer, scrolled a recruitment board full of teams demanding silver rank and gold rank, found exactly one posting my paper credentials fit, and made the call. That's how I spent 2 months as the newest member of the Yellow Sand Squad under a scarred captain named Ho Chang, learning from men who'd survived out there for years all the things no system menu teaches. How to read tracks, where not to camp, which water kills you, why you go around a territory marker even when you're confident, especially when you're confident. And I learned scale. From a safe distance one day, we watched a blue-scaled earth dragon lizard stretch, just stretch, and the pressure alone soaked my back in sweat and made the vegetation tremble. One breath from that, Ho Chang said quietly, and the whole squad is ash. All summer, the city news had made monsters feel like a managed problem. Out there, I finally understood. Humanity doesn't rule this planet. We rent a corner of it, and the soldiers on the frontier pay the rent in blood, every single day. I hauled home 2 months of ability points and a permanently recalibrated respect. Back home, one last piece of warmth before the leap. My Aunt Wen Li is my only real family left, the one who tried to take me in when my parents died and never stopped calling. She descended on Qingshui City with my uncle, my soldier cousin Peng Wei, and my university cousin Peng Li, carrying one unstoppable agenda: a proper graduation banquet. Because your parents are gone, but your aunt is still here, young man, and this family has produced a provincial scholar. I met them at the station with gifts that hurt my wallet and warmed something older than my wallet, and for 2 days I had a family again. The banquet itself was a natural disaster. I asked Zhang Kai to invite a few close classmates. Zhang Kai, who must never again be given logistics, summoned what appeared to be the entire school district, including junior high girls who called him Brother Kai for reasons I refused to investigate. Then the education director arrived uninvited with a delegation of deputy directors. Then the principals. Then the general public, because someone leaked the venue, and the restaurant owner, a man with the business reflexes of a striking cobra, hung a red and gold banner the size of a landing strip over his entrance. Warmest congratulations to provincial third-place scholar Wang Hao, switched his marquee to my name, and gave us 20% off in exchange for my dignity. I spent 6 hours as a photo booth with legs. Aunties seized my hand and blessed me. Juniors demanded inscriptions. Zhang Kai narrated our life and death brotherhood to a rotating audience of girls while photographing my suffering for his collection. My aunt glowed like a lighthouse the entire evening, and for her, I'd have done 6 more hours. And late that night, when it was just the handful of real classmates left around one table, Zhou Xing heading to a university up north, Zhang Kai staying in province, all of us listing our schools like coordinates we were about to scatter to, the noise finally drained out of the day. We drank to the ones who'd picked the safe track and hadn't come. We hugged under the streetlights, made the promises you make, and walked off into different directions of the dark. I stood there longer than I needed to. Some chapters you closed gently. 2 days later, I boarded the long-distance train to the capital, admission letter in my bag, spear in cargo. In this world, nobody sane flies. The sky belongs to winged monsters, so humanity crosses the wilderness in armored trains, and mine was packed with freshmen heading to the capital's universities, all of us with our shiny exam stories and our 18 years of confidence. The wilderness was about to grade that confidence, and it does not grade on a curve. I shared my table with 3 freshmen from another province, cheerful Chen Long, cool guy Zhou Bo, sweet Xu Ting, and the whole carriage buzzed with exam war stories. I killed a first-order lizard solo. That's nothing. I one-shotted a mutated wolf. Kids fresh from their first taste of blood, invincible in the retelling. I mostly listened. 4 hours in, deep in the wilderness, the train shrieked, shuddered, and the loudspeaker announced in a carefully calm voice, "A small group of alien beasts, please remain seated." The carriage scoffed. "A few stray monsters? The train has a shield and a combat team." Someone joked about free crystal cores. Then the armor plates slammed down over every window with a sound like a coffin closing. The shield flared to full power, and the searchlights came on. The lights showed us the horizon. The horizon was moving. A beast tide, tens of thousands, iron-horned rhinos in the vanguard, boars behind, wolf packs on the wings, flame tigers in the depth of the column, a black flood pouring at the train from the darkness with a sound like the earth being drummed. The carriage's confidence didn't fade, it detonated. Kids who'd been comparing kill counts 30 seconds earlier were crying for their mothers. Xu Ting shook like a leaf. And I stood at the viewing slit doing the math I'd learned at Blue Sky over the summer. And the math was bad. The train's garrison did everything right. Their commander, Captain Zhao, took the roof, called the fire plan, led the melee teams out in wedges to break the charge before it could pile onto the shield. Cannons vaporized the vanguard. Veterans covered rookies. And it wasn't going to be enough, because a horde like that doesn't move on its own. Somewhere out in the dark was a beast king driving it, and reinforcements from the capital's 7th base were 20 minutes out. When the king finally roared, Captain Zhao did the only thing a commander can do about a monster that outclasses his whole force. He charged off into the dark alone to keep it away from the shield, shouting at everyone else to hold for 10 more minutes. Inside Carriage 6, the passengers debated fighting, decided firmly on panicking, and settled into a stew of prayers and accusations. I got up, walked to the connector, and slipped out the door into the blood. Look, sitting in a metal box hoping the wall holds has never once been my survival strategy. Outside, there was a shield line, a professional army, and an all-you-can-kill buffet of ability points with military fire support. Inside, there was cortisol and crying. I picked up a dead soldier's spare spear on principle, saved my own gear for the serious work, and went hunting along the seams of the battle, killing the flankers, the leakers, the second-tier beasts that threatened to fold the line, pulling soldiers out from under claws. A tiger about to take a young trooper's head from behind, 1 thrust through the temple. 2 rhinos grinding down a squad leader, 2 thrusts. The soldiers kept shouting at the crazy passenger to get back inside. The crazy passenger kept farming. Then the second wave hit. The shield started dimming, and Squad 3 got cut off. 40 men, 2 deep, encircled, a black ocean of monsters closing over their light. Command had nothing left to send. And this is the part of that night I don't joke about, because I got there in time to hear 3 cornered veterans, Old Jin, Old Hu, Old Wei, talking while they fought back to back. Old Hu confessing he had a newborn son at home he'd kept secret. Old Wei demanding to marry Old Jin's sister with his dying breath, getting cursed out, laughing with blood in his mouth. 3 flame tigers hit them mid-sentence. Old Wei lost his arm at the shoulder and charged the biggest tiger one-handed anyway, roaring, so his brothers could live. I killed that tiger around him in mid-air, then the other 2, 1 thrust each, and then I opened the panel, took every point I'd farmed all summer, and spent all of it on the spot. Spearmanship pushed to true perfection, my father's technique to great success, because there were 40 men drowning in front of me, and I wanted to be enough. 1 full-power roaming dragon gale break blew a burning corridor through the encirclement encirclement, wide enough for a squad. "What are you standing there for?" I screamed at 40 stunned soldiers. "Run!" They ran. They lived. The shield broke with 1 minute left. It shattered like glass, and the tide came over the corpse wall, and a second-tier, earth-splitting demon lizard peeled a carriage open like a can and poured its breath weapon at the packed crowd inside. I spent my emergency teleport, a precision jump that cost me a nosebleed from every orifice I own, landed between the spikes and the passengers, shattered the volley with a sweep, and fed the lizard a pillar of ghost fire that blasted it back out of its own hole. Then my legs gave out, and one carriage down another breach opened, another set of jaws closed on screaming people, and I couldn't get up, could not get up, and an arrow the size of a lamppost arrived from 10 kilometers away and detonated the monster's skull like a watermelon. Kyoto's 7th base, Feng Ling. The name rolled over the battlefield like thunder, and behind it came the man, a wind-wrapped archer moving faster than eyes track, deleting monsters with every shot. The Beast King tried to leave. Feng Ling and the half-dead Captain Zhao ran it down together and came back dragging its corpse. 20 minutes, on the dot. The army does keep its appointments. They transferred us to a nearby city, and I caught a replacement train, aching, drained, and quietly satisfied. Saved a few hundred people, farmed a small fortune in points, time to nap. I walked into carriage 6, and the temperature dropped 40 degrees. Every face turned to me with open disgust. And then, it started. There he is, the deserter, the coward who bolted the second the tide hit and hid while everyone else waited to die. Su Ting shrieking, "How dare I come back?" Zhou Bo sneering that I disgraced my university and should have the decency to drop out. The whole carriage, 100 strong, unloading on me in relays, because they'd noticed exactly one fact, my empty seat, and built a courtroom on it. I tried one sentence of explanation and got shouted down by people who'd spent the battle memorizing the floor. And you know what? Fine. I have, in a previous life, spent a decade sharpening my tongue in internet comment sections, and these amateurs had just requested a demonstration. I stood up and returning fire on the entire carriage at once. Where exactly were you while I was outside? Oh right, in here, composing my trial between sobs. You personally saw me run? Through the wall? With your gift of X-ray cowardice? A full broadside, individually addressed, at machine gun cadence, until Zhou Bo's face cycled the whole visible spectrum, and the loudest accusers discovered urgent business with their shoes. It fixed nothing. It felt incredible. Mid-silence, 2 soldiers appeared and asked me to come with them. The carriage lit up with vindication. The army's arresting him. And I got marched out past 100 smug faces to meet, as it turned out, Commander Ma Dong of the train garrison, who shook my hand like a brother, thanked me for Squad 3 and the carriage save, and presented me with a small metal box, by special approval of the general. Inside was the Scarlet Eagle war token. Junior officer honors, access to the military's internal exchange, the locked vault where the real breathing techniques and battle manuals live, the ones money can't reach. 5,000 merit points to start, a badge that says in official metal, "This man is one of ours." I walked back to carriage 6, holding the most valuable object I owned. I got maybe 10 steps in before the carriage's shame found its spokesman. Because here's what had happened while I was gone, as reenacted for me afterward by several delighted witnesses. The moment the soldiers led me out, carriage 6 had thrown a party. "Told you so! Deserter! The army's got him now. Peking will expel him before he even enrolls." One especially civic-minded boy had cornered the returning train attendant to formally report my crimes, complete with a demand that the railway notify my university, and the whole car had backed him up in chorus, righteous as a choir. And the attendant, a small woman in a neat uniform who had spent the attack holding panicking passengers together with her bare voice, stood there listening to the report with her chest heaving, and then went off like a landmine. "Shut up, you ungrateful bastards! Do you know who you're slandering? While you cowered in here composing his trial, that boy was outside killing the monster that tore open the next carriage. He saved 100 people through that hole. He broke the encirclement around Squad 3. It's all on camera. The whole army knows. And you dare demand his expulsion? Where are your consciences? Did the dogs get them?" Then she'd slam the door on 100 open mouths. So by the time I walked back in with my medal warm in my pocket, the entire car was marinating in its own face. And one of them, a pampered Kyoto-bound freshman named He Peng, who'd led the deserter chants, decided his humiliation was somehow my invoice. He blocked my path, spread his arms theatrically, and delivered a sentence I want preserved in a museum. "Xiaoming, putting aside the facts, don't you think you're at fault here too? You went out to fight without informing us. You made us all look like fools. You should apologize to carriage 6. And the carriage agreed. A chorus of nodding. "Apologize. Clear our names. We're victims too." I looked at this landscape of proudly inverted logic, and I let go of the leash. 1 second of full killing intent, point blank, the real thing, the pressure squeezed out of a summer of dying things, and one word, roll. He Peng's legs quit their job on the spot. He poured himself into a seat, gray as old laundry, and the carriages found its collective off switch. I stepped over the silence, took my seat, closed my eyes, and enjoyed the best nap of the trip. I thought that was the end of it. A stranger's tantrum, a closed door. File it and forget it. Remember that name though, He Peng. Filing errors get expensive later. The capital hit me the moment I stepped off the train. Dozens of auras in the station square alone that outclassed mine, casually, like it was nothing. The heart of the nation is a pond full of dragons pretending to be commuters, and Kyoto Ability University itself sat outside the city on a lake full of islands, its main peak crowned by a jade tower called the Star-Plucking Pavilion, whose ambient pressure made freshmen souls buzz through the train's shielding. Parents weren't allowed past the outer gate. The school's welcome committee had other plans for us. 1,600 freshmen got herded onto a lakeside clearing where a kindly white-haired professor explained the local currency, academic credits. Everything at this school runs on them. Food, training rooms, techniques, weapons, tutoring. Your student card starts with 10. Then he gestured at 50-odd upperclassmen behind him, introduced them as last year's bottom-ranked sophomores, mentioned that our cards credits were transferable by touch, smiled like a grandfather, and said, "The hunt begins. Run, little lambs, that's the orientation. The academic credits hunt." 50 hungry sophomores loose in a forest with 1,600 walking wallets, everything above 3 credits legally lootable, staff filming the whole thing for the school's blooper archive. I watched 400 freshmen instantly rally around a big lad with an axe who gave a speech about strength in numbers and founded a society on the spot, complete with chanted slogans that broadcast their position to every predator on the island. They got harvested inside half an hour, herded, clubbed, memed by 2 staff cameramen who threatened the holdouts with high-definition social death and milked down to the mandatory minimum. Unity is a beautiful thing. So is a wolf's dinner bell. I went into the trees alone, and about 10 minutes in, a senior with a giant axe ambushed me out of a thicket, gave me the "you're about to be taught a lesson" speech, and swung. One exchange. His tiger's mouth split, his axe left, his back met a tree. I picked his student card up off the grass, read the balance out loud, 87 credits, senior, someone's been saving for his future wife, and explained the house rules as I now understood them. Nothing says freshmen can't rob seniors. Consider this self-defense with interest. He paid up a tuition of 77 credits, kept 10 out of my boundless mercy, and told me everything I asked about the event in exchange for my silence about his afternoon. His silence lasted 4 minutes. Then he wailed into the sophomore group chat that a black-clad freshman with a spear had mugged him. The chat filled up with fellow victims within minutes, some tiny girl with a halberd folding seniors in half, a poetry reciting swordsman in white, a maniac with a dark gold stick. By evening, the seniors had compiled an actual wanted list of dangerous freshmen, with me at number 1 under the handle Black Gun Reaper. After that, the hunt inverted beautifully. Seniors saw my silhouette and fled like startled deer. I chased one speed-type senior for 5 minutes, lost him, and then listened from behind a tree as he caught his breath and dictated a glorious voice memo to the group chat about how he dueled the Black Gun Reaper for 10 minutes and mercifully let me go. I stepped out mid-sentence and asked if he wanted that rematch. The man offered me rock, paper, scissors for his life. He paid 103 credits. Poetry. Then the school, watching all this on camera and grinning, decided the counter-hunters were having too much fun and sicked their varsity on us. Double credit bounties for taking down anyone on the freshman wanted list. And that's how I met Ye Cheng. A blood-red broadsword, metal element armor skin, a grin full of teeth, and a genuine mid-second tier aura brushing high. The first real fight since the snake. We leveled a clearing. His golden armor ate my ghost fire. His blade pressure cut my cheek from a meter out. It went all the way to a full-power finisher clash. My gale break against his blood shadow blade, and the collision dug a crater 10 meters wide. I ended up on my knees in the middle of it, conscious, spear still planted. He ended up swaying at the rim with cracks all over his golden skin. He laughed, called me a monster, threw me his card, and fainted with tremendous dignity. The medics who scraped him up reported multiple fractures and one strangely happy patient, because Ye Cheng's fellow elites, it turned out, had been flattened by the other wanted freshman that same afternoon, and misery adores company. I limped out of the forest with 1,042 credits, 100 times the starting allowance. Got patched up by a nursing senior who wrote her contact info on my supply slip unprompted, and went to find my dorm. The dorm was a villa. An actual 2-story villa with a garden, marble floors, and 2 private training rooms. In my past life, an 8-man dorm room was standard and a private bathroom was luxury. Here, the welcome gift was real estate. It came with a resident AI called Yoon Shi, who greeted me by name, chatted like a person, and could reskin her hologram on request. I abused that immediately and extensively. Maid, ice queen, giant robot, then reluctantly reset her to a neutral blue orb so my future roommate wouldn't form early opinions about my character. My future roommate arrived an hour later and made all such caution irrelevant, because the door opened on a young man in a battle-shredded ancient scholar's robe, hair in a wooden pin, broken folding fan in hand, walking backward while reciting improvised poetry at the nursing senior who'd escorted him and offering to read her palm for marriage prospects. She fled. He turned, saw me holding a cola with the expression of a man at the zoo, and without missing a beat, snapped the ruined fan open and declaimed, "What banished immortal graces my humble abode, brows like distant mountains, eyes like cold stars, Song Ling, freshman, swordsman, self-proclaimed master of feng shui and physiognomy, S+ special recruit, certified lunatic." We were brothers within the hour. He dragged me to the cafeteria, insisted on treating me because he'd seen my shredded clothes in the trash, and privately concluded I'd been robbed down to 3 credits, and wanted to spare my dignity, which was so genuinely sweet I let him pay despite the 1,000 credit card in my pocket. The cafeteria itself deserves a paragraph. Regular food is free and unlimited, but monster cuisine costs credits, and one bowl of secret recipe magic core soup runs 30 credits, or roughly 300,000 yuan, or the price of my whole battle armor, ladled by chefs who could probably kill me. The next morning, the vice principal, Chen Tao, floated onto the assembly ground with the deans, crushed 1,600 egos flat with ambient pressure, and laid down the covenant of this place. No privileges, no family names, strength speaks, credits pay, rules bind, and the law enforcement team enforces, up to and including on the spot for the worst cases. Then he announced the freshman grand competition, 1 month out, all mentors watching. Top 10 get S-level access, top prizes worth more than my hometown's annual budget. 1,600 geniuses started drooling in unison, and I took notes on exactly one line item, which I'll get to, because it was about to become a personal quest. But first, shopping and heartbreak. My S-recruit contract entitled me to 2 S-rank resources, so a teacher walked Song Ling and me to the Battle Technique Library, a black obelisk wrapped in a space barrier that 9th-tier experts allegedly can't force, and I went to work with my S-level browsing access. Pick 1. The Nether Flame Dark Breathing Technique, an S-rank cultivation method practically written for my Ghostfire, whose first single cycle pulled in more energy than a week of my old manual. Pick 2. Molten Core Fission, an S-rank killer technique that compresses a miniature sun into your palm, locked until 2nd tier, chosen precisely because it was horrifying. Then I splurged credits on 4 A-rank techniques, a throwing spear, a defensive fire ring, a burst step, and a nasty little soul burn touch, memorized all 6 manuals in one skull-splitting evening, and the next morning did what no genius in this school's history could do, pressed 4 plus signs, and mastered 4 A-rank techniques before breakfast, 1,200 points, 0 sweat. Somewhere out there, kids spend 6 months reaching entry level on one of those. My system may be a stingy accountant, but the store discounts are unbeatable. The heartbreak came at the equipment shop. Flush with over 1,000 credits, feeling wealthy, I asked Yoon to show me S-rank spears, 98,000 credits. I asked for A-rank, 15,000, C-rank, 700, or most of my net worth. I descended the catalog, rank by rank, like a man sinking through ice water, and finally, at D-rank, found my people, the Heavy Blaze, 115 credits, 180 kilo fire pattern spear, sturdy, honest, poor. I bought it with matching D-rank armor and boots, then loudly explained to Yoon Shi that this was a strategic choice, that I could totally afford C-rank, and my faithful AI replied in her serenest customer service voice, "Understood. Your order of 1 D-grade weapon, 1 D-grade armor, and 1 D-grade boots has been placed." She pronounced D-grade 3 separate times. I lay down on the sofa and asked the ceiling why the machines hate me. Somewhere in the villa, I swear the blue orb glowed with satisfaction. The academy split came and went. I tested clean past the doors of the prestigious alchemist and blacksmith tracks, where the real money lives, and turned them down flat because a support class trusts other people to keep it alive, and I buried my trust in other people back on a wall in Qingshui City. Natural Element Academy, Elite Class 1, Combat Track. Under a coolly beautiful homeroom teacher named Su Ya, Song Ling went to physical augmentation next door. And then, 2 weeks into term, I walked into Su Ya's office and asked for half a month off to go level in the wilderness zone, and the temperature dropped so fast the tea frosted over. She said, "Absolutely not, freshman. The Dragonscale mountain range is a graveyard." She gave the whole speech. She was completely right by every rule she knew. So I put the Scarlet Eagle War token on her desk and watched a homeroom teacher's worldview do a quiet somersault. She signed the leave slip with the face of a woman resigning herself to an interesting year and made me promise to check in alive. Then, I learned this much later, she reported the whole thing up an encrypted line. And somebody with a deep voice on the other end said something that would have raised my eyebrows. People the military has its eye on don't die that easily, and some roads, they only walk alone. Correct on both counts, whoever you are. I packed a bag of pills, shouldered my discount spear, and caught the train to the Dragonscale mountain range. The Dragonscale mountain range is named for its shape from above, a coiled dragon of primeval forest, legend says grown over an actual fallen dragon, with actual dragon-blooded monsters still holding the deep core. Humanity clings to its edge at Dragonscale Base, a fortified supply town where the traffic runs in 2 currents, fresh teams walking in loud and surviving teams walking out quiet, some of them carrying stretchers with tarps. I bought local intelligence, marked the Red Skull territories to avoid, and went to work in the buffer zone where the 1st and 2nd tier monsters live. My method was pure guerrilla, strike from silence, kill in one exchange, harvest the core and the priciest parts, vanish before the blood smell rings the dinner bell. My new A-rank soul burn touch turned out to be a monster farming cheat code. 1 mental flick, the beast's brain stutters, and the Heavy Blaze does the paperwork. A week of that and I hit the logistical wall every poor adventurer knows. I physically could not carry my income. I walked back into Dragon Scale Base with an overstuffed tactical pack plus 2 military grain sacks hanging off it like giant ears, 400 kilos of dead monster, drawing applause and Spring Festival porter jokes from the entire gate crowd, while some mid-tier smoothie strolled past me and vacuumed a mountain of loot into a ring on his finger. A space ring. 10 lifetimes of savings on one knuckle. I stood there with my sacks and made the ring a solemn promise. Wait for me. When I've saved 100 million, no, 1 billion, I will marry you. Then I turned my grief into cargo and hauled it to the buyer like a mule with a dream. The buyer's elevator gave me my first review as a local. It was packed with weathered adventurers and I squeezed in last. 400 kilos of dead monster and 2 weeks of unwashed battle radiating off me. On my way out, my pack brushed a young guy glued to his phone, mid-text to some goddess I'd learned from his very loud thumbs, and he whirled around with "Who's the blind idiot" locked and loaded. Then he met my eyes. I hadn't done anything. I was just very tired, very bloodstained, and very fresh from a fortnight of killing. And whatever was still sitting in my gaze at that hour, his sentence died of natural causes halfway up his throat. He nodded like a woodpecker until I left. Behind the closing doors, I heard the whole elevator burst into appraisals. How many beasts does a kid kill to smell like that? And I made a note to maybe decompress before entering confined spaces with civilians. Upstairs, the purchasing department took one look at my declared tonnage, and the counter girl called for backup. And backup arrived wearing a tailored suit and a professional smile. Gao Wei, floor manager, a man whose eyes did the math on my haul faster than his staff's scales did. He walked me into his office, poured the good tea, chatted about everything and nothing while his people inventoried a small mountain of second-tier essence parts. And when the list came back, he rounded my payout up by 200,000 on the spot. To a lucky number, brother, between friends. The Scarlet Eagle token I'd flashed at registration may have contributed to the brotherhood. Businessmen collect rising stocks, and I collect useful men with good tea. Everyone left happy. Week 2, the mountains introduced me to the other apex predator out there, the one with a friendly face. They found me right after a kill. The Ashclaw Adventure Squad. Chen Long, a scar-faced captain radiating protective concern. Su Hao, honest-faced, warm as a stove. Brother Guo, a weathered archer with kind, tired eyes. Registered adventurers, documents in order, 7 years in these mountains, and with them one Miss Jiang Yue, a stunning girl in dark red armor who looked like a greenhouse flower lost in a war zone, supposedly a university student they'd generously taken under their wing. They fussed over the poor solo freshman. "It's so dangerous alone, little brother. Team up with us. We'll even help with your school missions." Everything about them was perfect, and that was the problem. Perfect concern, perfectly played good cop, bad cop when deciding to accept me, perfect little kindnesses, and a safe water source marker on their gifted map sitting exactly where I'd cleared a nest of venomous snakes the week before. Plus one lovely damsel whose water grip had spear calluses, whose innocent bag gaped over military-grade steel, and who watched the three men's performance with the micro-smile of a theater critic. So the wilderness had dealt me 4 cards. 3 bandits running the classic long con, befriend the rich student, drug him, rob him, kill him, and 1 mystery predator running her own con on the bandits. And me, who introduced myself with a fake name, Brother Han Yu, borrowed with petty satisfaction from my old exam rival, may his ranking rest in peace, and settled in to enjoy the show. For 2 days, we were one big happy family. They hunted with me, helped with my herb-gathering missions, fed the damsel snacks, and me their drugged trail fruit, which I palmed and spat with a magician's diligence. At night, they walked off to scatter beast repellent and came back discussing, at a distance they thought was safe, the market value of my equipment and the order in which they'd enjoy Miss Jiang Yue. I lay by the fire with my eyes closed and adjusted their sentencing accordingly. The last evening, they roasted a farewell dinner, dosed the meat, and watched with parental warmth as the damsel and I both obligingly fainted. Then they got to work, pried off my spear, debated my backpack, planned the after-party. Su Hao's sleeping powder, he bragged, could drop a 3rd-tier bear. It's good powder. I'll take his word. It never got a fair trial, because when Brother Guo's fingers reached my pack, I said, from the ground, with my eyes still shut, "I was curious what new trick you 3 had." Drug, rob, assault, kill. That's it? I'm honestly disappointed. The choreography from there was brief. Brother Guo went into a rock. Chen Long came at me and left minus an arm's use. And then the reveals came like fireworks. Chen Long unleashed his real strength, a hidden 3rd-tier aura, roaring that I was dead. And I stopped sandbagging too, which is when their evening truly fell apart. Spark stepped through Shu Hao's beast form, a fire blast that took the archer out of the archery business. And when the 3 broke and scattered on Chen Long's signal, I threw 1 blazing spear that caught the 2 slower ones mid-flight, and ran down the 3rd-tier captain personally. His last full-power slash met my gale break coming the other way. The gale break won by a head, his specifically. Silence, smoke, and then applause. 1 pair of slim hands from atop a boulder, where Miss Jiang Yue sat cross-legged, wide awake, finishing a stolen wild fruit and grinning at me like a cat that had thoroughly enjoyed the opera. Impressive, little brother. That's not all your strength either, is it? We had the strangest conversation of my new life on that corpse-littered clearing. She knew my name was fake. Nice try, Brother Li Yi, and by the way, so was hers. She spotted the bloodthirst pill palmed up my sleeve, my absolute last resort trump card, from 10 meters, and cheerfully told me to stop sweating on it. Twice she casually leaned some charm pressure on me, some perfume-warm haze that reached for the base of my brain, and I broke it the honest way, by slapping my own face hard enough to draw blood, which delighted her beyond words. Mid-tier at minimum. Bored, brilliant, thoroughly dangerous, and playing with me the way you play with a promising kitten. Then a man's voice rolled through the canopy. "Girl, found you," and her face did the universal expression of a teenager caught by curfew. She winked, said the bad guys are here, little brother, get stronger, you're fun, and dissolved into thin air. A breath later, her voice arrived directly in my ear from nowhere at all. "Remember this, my real name is Luo Luo." I stood alone among the bodies of 3 bandits, thoroughly outleagued in a way I couldn't even classify, and did the reasonable thing, looted everything and left at maximum speed. Somewhere behind me, I'd learn much later, a suited uncle and a gentle auntie were escorting home a runaway young lady who negotiated like a hostage taker and went pale at the mention of someone called Uncle Lin. "Whoever you are, Luo Luo, your family sounds terrifying, your hobbies are illegal, and something tells me I haven't seen the last of you." The bandits' packs, by the way, contained their entire pirate savings, years of murdered adventurers' goods, cores, pills, rare ore, all of it. Combined with my own second-week haul, the sale back at base made even Galway's tailored composure slip. "Less than a week since your last mountain, brother, and you've brought a bigger one?" He inventoried a spread that included genuine third-tier materials, performed his signature courtesy roundup, and transferred me 19 million yuan. My account crossed 30 million. 4 months ago, I inherited a slit wrist and a scammed bank account. The compounding on revenge arcs is excellent. And the points. Oh, the points. 2 weeks of slaughter had financed the real ladder. I broke through to second-tier low, then intermediate, then 9. 9,500 points in one glorious bonfire. Second-tier advanced, with the molten core fission unlocked and entry-leveled on the way. 3 minor realms and a major breakthrough in half a month. My blood and chi read 1100. A normal second-tier advanced reads maybe 250. I lay on my rented bed at Dragon Scale Base, watched the panel glow, and asked the ceiling the only question left. Who else? The ceiling didn't answer. But back at the university, an answer of sorts was being prepared for me. My smartwatch had been collecting missed calls from Song Ling all week, and I'd ignored them. Because what emergency could a poetry lunatic possibly have? Famous last words. While I was gone, someone had spent 2 weeks and a professional budget burning my name to the ground. Here's what had happened while I was out in the mountains, pieced together afterward from forum archaeology and confessions. He Ping, the Carriage 6 historian, he of putting aside the facts fame, turned out to be Kyoto-bound too, and turned out to have a cousin at the school. Not just any cousin, Lin Feng, president of the White Horse Society, a first-class club and a name on the peak ranking list, the school-wide top 100 where the actual monsters live. Little cousin arrived at university nursing his train humiliation, reported that a freshman named Zhao Ming had offended him, no details, and big cousin didn't ask for any, because family is family, and the White Horse Society went to work on me with a strategist named Chen Hai running the playbook. And credit where due, it was a good playbook. Phase 1, praise me to death, paid accounts flooding the forum with Zhao Ming is the hidden boss of this year. Zhao Ming outclasses your favorites, until every other Rising Stars fan club hated my guts on principle. Phase 2, impersonation, fake accounts posting as me and as my fans, trash-talking every popular freshman by name, turning that hate to a boil. Phase 3, the trap, a challenge posted in my name at the arena, in front of thousands. And since the real me was 300 kilometers away gutting bandits with no signal, the challenger never showed. From that day forward, I was the king of talk, the coward of Kyoto, the clown who roars online and hides offline. A real men challenge trend. Send Zhao Ming a challenge letter. Buried my dorm in envelopes. Students from the provincial capital piled on with essays about how my exam site was easy mode. There was a literal bounty board pricing my body parts for the freshman grand competition, and I am obligated by honesty to report that my third leg was the premium item at 100 credits, a valuation I choose to take as a compliment. Song Ling fought a one-fan rearguard action the whole 2 weeks. He's on a school mission, you absolute clowns, and got labeled my paid janitor for his trouble. So when I walked back through the school gates, smelling of blood and profit, the gate guards recognized me with the delighted faces of men watching the season finale walk in. Someone snapped a photo of my back, and the forum detonated. The coward returns. Will he kneel? I got home to find Song Ling barricaded behind a crate of challenge letters, one nerve away from composing my elegy. He briefed me with Yun Shi's help. 138 million mentions. Coward, 37%. Clown, 19. He watched my face go through the readings and braced for the eruption. The eruption took a detour. I checked with Suya first, and my icy homeroom teacher, who clearly ran on more information than a homeroom teacher should, laid it out. The school knew it was a manufactured job, knew who was behind it, had them on record. But Kyoto doesn't referee student wars fought inside the rules. Settle it yourself. Ability speaks. She said it with the ghost of a smile, like she'd already read the ending. Fine. Then I looked at the crate of challenge letters, this mountain of hate mail every sensible person told me to burn, and felt my heart fill with sunshine. Because I'd read the arena regulations. A formal challenge, once accepted by the challenged party, binds the challenger to appear. And arena matches carry entry stakes, paid in credits. Madman, I told Song Ling, cradling an envelope like a firstborn. This isn't slander. This is accounts receivable. 400 people have prepaid to meet me. He got it in 1 second flat, screamed about intellectual property, and we spent a genuinely disgraceful evening negotiating his cut for hosting duties. He opened at 40%. I countered with gratitude. We landed on 80-20 after he threatened to compose satirical poetry about me daily. The revenge was scheduled for after the tournament. Business before pleasure. First, though, everyone got a preview. The morning of the grand competition, the cafeteria spotted me and went silent, then buzzing. One blonde showpiece in white armor strolled over to farm Cloud off the resident coward. If I were you, he announced to the room, I'd have crawled into a hole, or better, dropped out. I looked up from my noodles and gave him 1 second of the dragon scale special. The pressure you can only grow by killing things that were trying to kill you back. 2 words, shut up. 1 more, roll. His legs filed for divorce and took the rest of him down with them. The cafeteria recalculated several assumptions in real time. We finished our noodles in beautiful silence. The arena on competition day was a stadium at full boil. 1,600 freshmen on the floor. Thousands of seniors in the stands, plus every club's recruiters, and then the crowd started gasping because the big 3 organizations had sent their vice presidents in person. Joe Huan of the Capital Gang, smiling like a well-dressed knife. Lei Jin of the Heavenly Blade Society, radiating fresh battlefield murder. Pan Zi of the Military Thorn, marching in with a squad that moved like one body. All 4th-tier experts, all allegedly too important to attend a freshman event. The head of the law enforcement team, Sui Hao, ambled over to stand between them like a smiling lightning rod, and the whole stadium understood. This year's freshman class had drawn the attention of the people behind the big names. Then the air tore open above the stage, and 7 high-tier existences stepped out of empty space, and 1,600 geniuses simultaneously remembered how small they were. Vice Principal Chen Tao, the 5 academy deans, and Director Han Ming of Academic Affairs, live and floating. The pressure alone buckled knees across the plaza. That's what 7th tier and up feels like, weather with opinions. The rules were simple and the prizes were obscene. Stage 1, 10 arenas, King of the Hill, 10 straight wins advances you into the top 100. Stage 2, 10-man free-for-alls, last one standing makes the top 10. Stage 3, 2 hours of open challenges to sort the crown. Top 10 get S-level access. 3rd place, an S-rank resource and A-rank armor. 2nd, 2 S-rank resources. 1st place, 3,000 credits, 2 S-rank resources, and a 10 cubic meter space ring. A space ring. The stadium heard billions worth of prize money. I heard wedding bells. Somewhere in my memory, a boy with 2 grain sacks hanging off his backpack looked up and whispered, "It's happening." 1st place stopped being a goal and became a proposal. The lottery drew the 10 opening champions, and the universe, showing off, put my name on ring 7, which meant the school-wide punching bag was about to be on stage, defending a hill in front of everyone who'd spent 2 weeks pricing my organs. The stadium made a sound like feeding time. Song Ling slapped my back hard enough to loosen fillings. I picked up my spear and reflected that at least I'd be done early. Challenger 1 arrived monologuing. A Silver Spear kid, delighted by his luck, offering me the chance to kneel and call him daddy, pulling the crowd on which of my limbs to start with, weighing the bounty on my premium item. The referee said begin. The monologue was still in progress. I hit him once. He left the ring at roughly 10 times his arrival speed, bounced, and chose unconsciousness. The crowd, after a silence, settled on sneak attack, no martial virtue, because he hadn't finished his sentence, you see, and interrupting a man mid-taunt is apparently the true crime here. I turned to the stands, smiled, and slowly drew a thumb across my throat. The resulting roar of fury was, and I say this with total sincerity, delicious. Challenger 2 was a girl in pink armor who opened with a speech about my martial ethics, escalated to my crimes against womankind, and then, this is real, I have witnesses, clutched her chest and screamed that I was groping her with my eyes. I've survived a beast tide and a bandit ambush, but that one nearly got me. The referee said begin. I ended it with one flat of the wrist slap that sent her spinning off the stage through a cloud of her own foundation. The crowd upgraded me from coward to woman-beating demon, and the bounty on my parts reportedly rose. Fantastic. Appreciating assets. Challengers 3 through 9 came, saw, and were carried off, 1 hit each, and somewhere around number 7, the heckling curdled into something quieter. The people who'd shipped me challenge letters were doing math about binding acceptance clauses. The phrase, living Yama, started circulating. And Challenger 10 waddled up, a round classmate named Wang Daifu, hauling a hammer bigger than himself, who took one look at the launch trajectories of his predecessors, scuttled close, and whispered a business proposal. 3 credits to throw the match gently. No, 5. 5 credits, Brother Hao. It's my future wife's savings. The referee yellow-carded him mid-bribe. What followed was the least convincing stage combat in the history of organized sport. We clanged weapons at a polite meter's distance for 3 minutes like wind chimes in love, until the referee threatened us both, at which point Wang Daifu launched his own hammer, screamed, "What peerless spearmanship! I am defeated," and swan dived off the stage with a wink. The stands held themselves hoarse about match fixing. The referee massaged his temples and declared my 10 wins. Wang Daifu somersaulted upright and appointed himself my minion on the spot, and I let him keep his 5 credits as an acting fee, because talent must be nurtured. 10 straight, top 100, first man through. I left the stadium to rest while 1,500 remaining geniuses fought over the other 99 seats, and the forum spent the night relitigating everything it thought it knew about me, with the important footnote that the White Horse Society, watching my highlight reel on repeat, had begun to feel the first cold drop of sweat roll down its collective spine. Stage 2, next morning. The top 100 split into 10 free-for-alls. Song Ling spent the entire draw praying to every deity in rotation that we wouldn't land in the same group, got his wish in round 4, blessed me like a departing pilgrim, and went off to win his own bracket. My name came up in Group 9, and the moment I stepped onto that ring, the other 9 contestants huddled up with the discretion of a marching band, because of course they did. There was a bounty board with my name on it, and here stood 9 strong strangers with one shared dream. Their blonde spokesman laid it out in a stage whisper the first 3 rows could hear. The walking credit package has delivered itself. Whoever maims him best gets the biggest cut. And, turning to me with the generosity of a butcher, if you jump off now, coward, you'll suffer less. I raised one hand and beckoned to all 9 of them at once, to save time. They came in a coordinated wave: fireballs, wind blades, a metal-skinned charger, a dagger blur, mental interference, a support aura. Honestly, not a bad little raid composition. And the wave met one horizontal sweep of the heavy blaze. I'm going to describe what the audience saw, because I've watched the recording. 9 silhouettes enter a cloud of their own launched abilities. A series of percussion sounds occurs at a tempo no one can count, and then bodies begin exiting the smoke on assorted ballistic arcs, one of them traveling through 2 teammates. When the dust settled, one person stood on the ring, unscuffed, and 8-ish seconds had elapsed. The stadium's silence had texture. You could have spread it on bread. "Teacher," I asked the referee, "I guess I've won?" He looked at me for a long moment and announced Ring 9 with the voice of a man updating his beliefs. And in the stands, one spectator took it worse than the 8 guys I just launched. He Peng, who had spent a month building a machine to destroy a stranger from a train, watched me sweep 9 elites in one breath, went the color of expired tofu, screamed when my gaze passed over him, and fled the stadium at a dead sprint, climbing over his own clubmates. I remember frowning at the vaguely familiar silhouette, still didn't place him. Genuinely, at that point in the story, I did not know this man existed, which for my money is the funniest single fact in this entire war. Stage 3, the top 10, one final afternoon, open challenges for the crown. The other 9 were the real elite of the year. Wei Fang, the staff maniac, who'd introduced himself in the waiting room with shining eyes and a request to fight me sometime, and whom I'd instantly liked. Chen Xiaoman with her halberd, Du Liang with his twin blades, my own lunatic roommate, fresh off his group win, fanning himself with the murdered fan. 10 metal rings rose from the floor, ranked 1 through 10. The rule? Take a ring, defend it, challenge upward. Everyone braced to sprint. I was already there. Space ability. One blink, standing on ring number 1 before the announcer finished the word, begin. And then, instead of calling out a first challenger, I turned to the official's stand and to Director Han Ming and made a modest procedural request. "It's nearly lunch, teacher. 9 sequential duels is a lot of scheduling. Could I just take all 9 at once and confirm the ranking directly?" The stadium needed a second to process, then went off like a bomb. He said what? The 9 geniuses' faces cycled from disbelief to volcanic. The forum would later declare this the most arrogant sentence in school history, and the forum has archives. And Han Ming, bless that stone-faced man, looked at me with something twinkling behind his eyes and said, "Interesting. Granted." What followed was the shortest, loudest legend of the year. 9 S&A ranked talents, second-tier lows to a man, attacked one ring together in genuine fury, and I finally, for the first time on this campus, took the suppressor off. Second tier, advanced aura, full ghost fire shroud. The pressure alone stopped the front rank mid-charge like a wall of hot glass. You could hear 4,000 people inhale at once, and one voice cracking out the collective thought, "That's a freshman?" They came anyway. Full credit, they were geniuses. They'd all fought above their weight before, and Chen Xiaoman rallied them with a shout that had actual steel in it. So they got the honest version, the blur through their formation, the spear that parried 3 techniques in one rotation, the whip kick that took their assassin out of stealth mid-step, the mental spite from their psychic that shattered on my spirit stat and rebounded as a nosebleed, and when their earth mage rooted my legs in a swamp trap while an axe and a light blade came down together in a genuinely beautiful pincer. The crowd rising, screaming that this was it. The swamp flash boiled off my ghost fire, and I met the pincer with a smile. "Enough warm-up," I told them, apologized in advance, raised my left palm, and let the molten core fission out for its first public performance. A miniature green sun compressed to a screaming point, distorting the air around my hand. The 8 still standing felt it and froze. That's the sensation of a technique 2 full weight classes above the venue. I pushed it gently forward. The detonation swallowed Ring 1 whole, a perfect, silent, then deafening sphere of underworld fire. And the reason 9 people are alive today is that Han Ming materialized inside the blast radius and stopped the entire shockwave with one open palm half a meter from his sleeve, which smoked. A Dean-level existence, personally catching my finisher. He turned, looked at me across the settling light with an expression I'd frame if I could, and announced to a stadium too stunned to cheer. The battle is over. Zhao Ming, undisputed first. Then they cheered. It came in like a tide after a held breath, and it did not stop for a very long time, and somewhere in it the words coward and clown officially died. My name got chanted by the same building that had priced my organs the day before. Crowds are weather. Never take weather personally. The aftermath came in 3 flavors. Flavor 1, prizes. That evening, mid-celebration feast in the villa, teacher Han from School Affairs rang the doorbell and handed over 2 fingerprint-locked safes with the ceremony of a man delivering nuclear codes, declined Song Ling's offer of half-eaten roast chicken, and left us to our unboxing. Mine held 3,000 credits worth of authorization, 2 S-rank resource vouchers, and the ring. 10 cubic meters of folded space on 1 silver band. I pressed my spiritual imprint into it, and a cube of pocket universe unfolded in my perception, obedient as a drawer. Within the hour, I had stored and resummoned my entire arsenal, my supply stock, the TV remote, and 1 whole roast chicken, practicing drumstick from the void like the world's most food-motivated wizard. Song Ling, second place, exactly 1 prize tier short of a ring of his own, gnawed his broken fan flat with envy. Then he tried to store himself in the ring out of spite. Doesn't work. Rings refuse living things. Yes, we tested that empirically, twice. Goodbye forever, grain sacks. The porter is dead. Long live the groom. Flavor 2, patronage. The top 10 got marched into a lounge, where the academy deans divided us up as personal disciples, and the dean of my own Natural Element Academy, Wen Yang, a silver-haired stormfront of a man, claimed me. I bowed exactly as deep as courtesy required, while privately filing him under useful umbrella, because let's be honest about my situation. My real teacher is a slot machine, but in a world run by seniority, a dean's name over your head keeps lesser nuisances polite. The whole solemn ceremony lasted 12 minutes and ended with the great men saying, "Study hard," and wandering off. 10 stunned prodigies blinking at each other, and Han Ming laughing at our faces and shooing us out. Cultivation, as ever, is self-service. One person did stay behind for me, though. Han Ming led me to a side room where Shu Tao was waiting, the recruiter who'd staked his name on a nobody from a county town, and the man was glowing like he'd won the tournament himself. Which, professionally speaking, he had. His against the committee S rating had just been vindicated in front of the whole school, with commendations attached. We traded thanks that were both real. His eye had put me here, my performance had paid his bet, swapped private contacts, and I left with 1 more name on the short list of adults in this world who saw me before the scoreboard did. That list gets remembered. Both directions. Flavor 3, recruitment, and this one turned into a bidding war on the stadium steps. The Capital Gang offered me a vice presidency, 300 credits a term and 2 million a month. The Heavenly Blade Society trumped it with a designated future presidency plus a management seat in their martial empire after graduation. The military Thorn put the Dragonfang Special Forces Brigade on the table. 3 fourth-tier vice presidents standing in a triangle around 1 freshman, escalating like auction paddles, while the law enforcement captain hovered nearby with the hopeful face of a man whose own offer was mostly vibes. And I looked at all that glory and saw the fine print. Vice president is upper management for someone else's house. Meetings, errands, politics, loyalty owed upward, every hour of it stolen from the only ladder I actually climb, the one made of dead monsters. My previous life did a tour in a student union. Never again. I thanked all 4, collected all 4 business cards, promised to think it over, and went home to eat a victory dinner with the one alliance I actually trust, who was already ordering half the cafeteria on my tab in celebration of our championship. His words, and honestly, fair. The next morning, it was time to collect on the crate. Word went out through Song Ling's freshly launched live stream, delivered in his finest auctioneer voice. The Zhao Ming Challenge begins today at the arena. Every one of the 400-plus challenge letters in this box was formally issued and formally accepted. Per school regulations, the challenger must appear. Failure to appear is a rules violation. We will be calling names. Zhao Ming's schedule is wide open for days. The arena filled up faster than a fire drill in reverse. Half the school came to watch. The other half came because their names were in the box. You could sort the crowd by face, the spectators grinning, the letter writers wearing the gray complexion of men summoned to an audit, because everyone had done the math by now. The clown they'd all posted challenges at was the freshman champion who took 9 elites in one breath and made a dean catch his finisher. The betting lines on my matches had quietly been replaced by betting lines on hospital stays. Then I stood on the ring. Song Ling drew the first letter with a flourish, called the name, and the poor soul climbed up, bowed, and started apologizing before his feet were both on the platform. I was misled by marketing accounts, brother. I didn't know, I'm sorry. And I smiled and revealed the actual business model. The arena entry stake is 1 credit. Pay 3 and we'll consider your challenge honorably withdrawn. Or, of course, we can fight. I hear the infirmary does weekly rates. You could hear the entire stadium understand simultaneously. This wasn't a gauntlet. This was a toll booth. 400 prepaid customers, 3 credits ahead, with a violence-backed collections department. The forum erupted in real time. He's robbing us, someone typed, within the rules, brilliantly, like a demon, and my new title was born on the spot. Demon King Zhao Ming. I've been called worse by better. The line moved briskly after that. Name, bow, transfer, next. Song Ling calling them out like a wedding host, me nodding graciously at each deposit. The complications priced themselves. One smart aleck was revealed by our records to have mailed 3 separate letters, tried to pay the standard rate, and learned that volume discounts run in the other direction. 5 credits, or 3 trips off the stage. He paid, with the face of a man passing a kidney stone. Another had sent 10 letters and refused on principle. I respect principles, so I respected him off the platform with 1 kick, and the crowd watched him bounce and collectively rediscovered arithmetic. The rest of the queue paid like a church collection plate, and then Song Ling drew a letter, read the name, and the whole day changed key. He Peng, Physical Augmentation Academy, Class 2. The man came up with his cap pulled low and his chin buried in his collar, speed-walked to the referee, paid his 3 credits mid-stride, and was actually turning for the stairs when I finally placed the silhouette that had been itching at me since the stadium, the train, carriage 6, putting aside the facts. And here he was on my stage, having spent a month and a mercenary budget burning my name, praying I wouldn't recognize the face under the cap. "Where do you think you're going?" I asked, very quietly. "I never said you could leave." He froze, then did the most honest thing he'd done all month. He screamed, "Cousin, save me," at the stands. And the stands answered. A man stood up in the audience with the unhurried confidence of a big fish in a documented pond. Lin Feng, White Horse Society president, peak ranking lister, 4th-tier expert, and offered me face. "We're all classmates, Zhao Ming. Give me this one. It'll be worth your while." Face. From the sponsor of my body part bounty board. I told him I didn't know him, asked why his face should be worth anything to me, and turned back to his cousin, who was ordered onto the ring by the referee, since 3 credits settles a challenge, but this particular gentleman had, per our records, some additional line items. He rushed the surrender, mouth already open on the word, and I closed it for him with a palm edge to the throat, then broke both his legs, then both arms, in the efficient sequence of a man settling a whole month of invoices at once, and finished by punting him off the stage like a parcel. The stadium sat very still. Lin Feng stopped pretending to be calm, roared, charged the ring, and got bodily stopped by the staff because non-participants don't enter, President. Them's the rules. The same rules his club had been hiding behind all month. Funny how those work in both directions. He tried money next, 100 credits to let it go, which told me everything about how he valued other people's months. So I named my own figure to a different question. He'd screamed a challenge at me in the heat of it. "Fight me, freshman. I'll even give you a year to prepare." The stands had already begun mocking him for challenging a first year, and he was mid-retreat, cousin over his shoulder, when I accepted. 10,000 credits on the line, 1 year from now. He stared at me, said, "Done," and left, carrying his groaning investment. And the form went into low orbit. Peak lister versus freshman champion, the 10,000 credit death appointment. Song Ling spent that evening genuinely worried at me. "Mingzi, he's 4th tier. You're 2nd. This isn't a duel, it's a scheduled eclipse." And I patted his shoulder and told him the truth. A year is a very, very long time at my rate of interest. Then we counted the day's takings, 1,861 credits, and split it 80-20, and he demanded his missing 0.2 credits from the rounding with the fury of a wronged accountant until I bought him dinner. Best business partner I've ever had. Absolutely deranged. As for the White Horse Society, the internet did my cleanup for me. The live-stream detectives cross-referenced the duel drama, pulled the whole smear campaign apart thread by thread, and published the receipts, the paid trolls, the impersonation accounts, the manufactured no-show. And 400 people who had been tricked into mailing me their credits did not decide to forgive me. They decided it was all the White Horse Society's fault, which, to be fair, it was. Overnight, the club that engineered my social death became the most hated organization on campus, hemorrhaging members and getting roasted hourly by the very mob it had built. You reap what you astroturf. The last thread of that season was quieter and better. My nominal mentor, Wen Yang, summoned me to his villa for an evaluation, and sitting in his living room was a girl in pale blue with waist-length black hair and a face like the concept of winter, introduced, eventually, as Su Bing, his junior's disciple, 3rd year. The dean put me and my fellow disciple Wen Wenjia through our paces in his private training room. Wenjia demonstrated her shadow techniques and got a precise surgical training plan. Then I demonstrated mine, mentioned in passing that my complete set of A-rank techniques plus 1 S-rank were all learned within the past month, and watched Adin's carefully prepared mentorship roadmap die in his pocket in real time. He recovered by lecturing me sternly about my many flaws, which was going great until the ice girl on the sofa said, mildly, "Uncle Yang, why are you lying to children? That's advice for mid-tier experts, and you know it." The dean's dignity and I both needed a moment. But here's what mattered. Su Bing, 20 years old, cold as a morgue and twice as composed, turned out to be a 5th-rank alchemist. In a world where most graduates never touch rank 1. I have never pivoted so fast in my life. By the end of that visit, she had somehow agreed to refine my herb hauls into pills. By the next, she was handing me 2 jade bottles of the finished goods and waiving off payment because the materials were nothing and it only took an hour. An hour, for what would cost me a semester of credits. So I refused to be out-generositied by a plutocrat and vowed on the spot to bring her a pound of Snow Mountain silver needle tea from the deep wilderness. Wen Yang choked on his own cup and informed me that particular tea grows on one frozen peak guarded by a 5th-tier magical beast. Too late, vows out. And between us, that was the plan. A debt with no due date is a relationship, and a freshman who lives in the wilderness cannot have too many friends who turn plants into power on request. She watches trashy dramas when her master's away, by the way, and labels my pill bottles in handwriting neater than a printing press. Ranked people are just people, expensive, wonderful people. Then the school year settled into my favorite kind of rhythm, a double life. Monday through Thursday, model student. And I mean that sincerely because Kyoto's freshman courses turned out to be the least skippable classes I've ever sat in. Warcraft anatomy, taught by professors who've dissected the things. Exactly which vertebra to put a spear through on a rock serpent. Which monsters keep their cores where. How to kill quietly so the blood smell doesn't ring the dinner bell for the whole forest. Wilderness survival, botany, which innocent-looking berries end careers. History, where I finally got the missing spine of this whole world, the day of origin centuries back. A white light across the sky, a full day of darkness, and then surging primal energy. Mutating beasts, awakening humans, and ancient ruins discovered underground, whose salvage technology quietly explains everything from talent scanners to a level 4 AI with opinions about my shopping. I've been treating university as a backdrop for my grinding. It took about 2 weeks of lectures to understand I'd been a peasant sneering at a library. Thursday evening, the second life. Trained to dragon scale. 3 days of slaughter in progressively deeper rings, back Monday before first bell, reeking faintly of blood and profit. Suya extracted a standing promise that I'd ping her my coordinates every Sunday night, signed off on the standing leave with the face of a woman aging in fast forward, and made her weekly reports to whoever sits on the other end of that encrypted line. The gate guard started nodding to me like a colleague. The middle ring of dragon scale christened the new curriculum immediately. My first weekend that deep, a pile of dead leaves erupted under my boot and a rock serpent came out of it. 10+ meters of 3rd-tier ambush predator in stone scales, spiking the ground under me with earth magic while I parkoured up a tree. Old me would have brute forced it and burned half my energy on armor that eats spears. New me heard the biology professor's voice. Scales thin as 3 finger widths below the head. Earth techniques need ground contact, baited upward. 5 minutes later, the serpent was a warehouse of luxury parts with one neat hole in its neck, plus 380 points, plus a core the size of my fist, and I stood there having a small epiphany about tuition. Every lecture I'd almost skipped was a cheat sheet written in other people's blood. I stopped almost skipping, and the campus, beautifully, forgot me. That's the thing about fame at a school with 1,600 geniuses per year. Stop feeding it, and it starves in a month. Wei Feng and Chen Xiaoman were breaking records in the training halls every week. I appeared on campus mainly as a roomer with a class schedule. My name sat first on the freshman ranking list, month after month, untouched, partly out of respect, mostly, I suspect, out of the memory of what happened to the last 400 people who challenged me. The Demon King discount. Nobody wants to be invoice 401. Meanwhile, the panel kept climbing. 2nd tier advanced became 3rd tier low, somewhere in those weekends. 13,000 points for one breakthrough. My system's pricing growing more offensive with every rank. The black-hearted middleman skimming harder the richer I got. Blood and chi over 2,000. Fist technique pushed to perfection to match the spear, because a man whose whole game lives in one weapon is a man one disarm away from being a cautionary tale. 3 fresh S-rank battle techniques bought with tournament credits and instantly mastered. A binding chain of ghost fire for stopping runners. A compressed fire blast that's the entry ticket to an SSS technique called the Magma Meteor that I fully intend to own someday. And a flame fist for conversations where the spear would be overkill. The wolf packs that used to be boss fights became agriculture. I started eyeing the deep rings where the 3rd tier packs run, and the monsters of the middle ring started giving me the same wide berth the sophomores did. The alchemy pipeline flourished too, fed by tribute. Every trip back, I delivered Su Bing my herb haul plus a thank you gift, sourced via increasingly desperate consultations with Yun Shi, whose market data on what young women enjoy proved to be confidently, statistically, wrong. Limited edition lipstick, a monster fur scarf. Once, at the algorithm's insistence, a large pink rabbit doll, which the 5th rank alchemist received with a facial twitch I've chosen to interpret as suppressed delight. Yun Shi, watching me pack yet another care package for the woman who refines my free pills, summed up my whole strategy in one synthesized word: gigolo. And honestly, if living off a beautiful woman's alchemy while paying in rabbit dolls is wrong, my system has never once flagged it as a violation. Which is roughly when the mountains reminded me that the most dangerous animal out there files taxes. It was a Sunday. I was standing in a clearing doing happy math over a dead wolf pack when a beautiful woman in tactically distressed clothing stumbled out of the trees, sobbing that a bad man was chasing her and attempted to take shelter attractively on my arm. 10 seconds later, her bad man arrived on cue, bellowing about stolen goods, and the two of them performed their little morality play. She'd found a blood moon grass. He claimed it was his. Brother, help me and I'll split it with you, while positioning themselves with the blocking of people who had rehearsed. The grass was real, by the way. A-rank herb, worth millions. She flashed it to bait me and tucked it back into her armor. I'd like to tell you I agonized, but I'd met this play before, in the Ashclaw's production, and the wilderness had already taught me its one commandment. Out here, past the reach of law, the smiling stranger is a weapon system in standby. So when the big man charged on cue, and the damsel behind me went for the dagger at her waist with my back conveniently turned, my spear was already moving the other way. Through her, first, mid-draw. Then I ran down her partner before his grief finished converting to flight, and his real third-tier strength bought him exactly one extra exchange. I reunited them, as promised. I'm sentimental like that. Killing people is not killing monsters, and I want to be honest that it costs something, even when the people were a murder machine with a 2-act structure. I stood over them until my hands were quiet. Then I did the practical thing, because their profession implied inventory. Searched the bodies, recovered the blood moon grass, a stack of cores and cash, and one folded, blood-stained map of the deep dragon scale range with a location circled and 2 words written beside it: ancient ruins. The same kind of ruins, my history professor would note, that the whole modern world's technology was dug out of, on a dead bandit's map, circled. I filed that under next semester's problems, the way you file a lit fuse, and took the grass home to Su Bing, who looked at an A-rank herb, then at me, and for the first time in our acquaintance raised both eyebrows a full millimeter. Standard procedure, I told her. Basic operation. She labeled me a money-grubbing monkey with her eyes and took the commission. And then came the week that cracked the story open. The week I stopped hunting monsters and took 3 missions against humans. The change of target announced itself through a broken routine. That Thursday, instead of bolting for the wilderness train like a man being repossessed, I ambled home, cracked a cola, sprawled on the sofa, and told Yun Shi to queue up the trashiest short drama on the network, something with a domineering CEO and at least 2 secret identities. Song Ling walked in mid-episode, took in the scene, and reacted the way you'd react to finding your workaholic roommate replaced by a body double, circled me twice, checked my forehead, and demanded to know what demon had eaten his brother. Then he made the fatal error of sitting down to watch 1 episode, got hooked harder than I was, and when the screen froze on a pay-to-unlock screen at the exact peak of the betrayal arc, we had a genuine 10-minute standoff over who would pay. 2 of the richest freshmen on campus, glaring at each other over the price of a bus ticket. He caved. He always caves. I ransomed my explanation to his payment, told him I was just stockpiling mission points before the next big push, and off he charged to the arena to train, fully recharged by the confirmation that the ladder still had both of us on it. That lunatic runs on rivalry the way I run on points, and heaven help the year we run out of either. The reason was bureaucratic, which is how all horror stories start. The mission hall's 3rd floor, the A-rank and S-rank board, the one with real monster hunting contracts worth entire resource packages, requires 3rd-tier strength, which I had, and 1,000 mission points, which I didn't. The fastest points on the board were 3 C-rank contracts from the Martial Arts Investigation Bureau, this world's blend of police and monster cop, out in a neighboring city called Beihua, fugitive retrieval, gang cleanup, and 1 missing persons case. I took all 3 solo and rode out on a Friday in light rain. The bureau liaison, a squared-away veteran named Lei Cheng, walked me through the files with the weary thoroughness of a man who's processed dead students before. Target 1, Shu Fan, first-tier murderer with an aura concealment talent, gambling addict, twice escaped the Bureau's own sweeps. Target 2, the Black Fang, a street gang of low-ability users running robbery and rackets in the West District. Target 3, and here his voice changed, a missing student. Actually 2 missing students because the second one had disappeared while investigating the first, both of them university ability users, both vanished in the same old industrial district while looking into an ordinary shooting. He gave me the whole safety lecture. Don't touch the underground casinos. Don't use abilities in public. Ordinary people with guns kill careless ability users every year. You're a freshman. Come back alive. Good man, Lei Chung. Genuinely trying to keep me breathing. Target 1 took an evening. Gambling addicts are the easiest hunting in the world because they commute. I rented a hotel room overlooking the casino district and watched the door over takeout chicken. 10:30, Shu Fan's baseball cap showed up. I followed him inside, blink, no ticket needed, blended in at a low table, and spent 2 educational hours watching a wanted murderer donate his stolen money at a pace that explained his entire criminal career. My own random guest chips did better than his system. When he slunk out broke, I met him in the alley before his concealment talent finished spinning up, broke both his legs on arrival, and delivered him to the bureau folded like laundry. His famous escape talent works great, I'm told, on people who aren't already standing on him. Target 2 solved itself with poetry. I arrived in the West District to scout the Black Fang, and the Black Fang, displaying the market research that had made them a C-rank threat, chose that exact evening to rob the armored teenager walking through their turf. The whole roster, conveniently self-assembled, introduced themselves by gang name to their own arrest. I put the pile in front of Lei Cheng's people by midnight. 2 missions, 1 day. The liaison looked at me across his desk like a man rereading a price tag. Target 3 was the trap, and I knew it walking in, because 2 ability users don't vanish investigating a mundane shooting unless the shooting has friends. So I did the loud thing on purpose. Spent Saturday strolling the old industrial district in daylight, asking blunt questions about the disappearances at every noodle stand, wearing my school-issue naivety like a sandwich board. By sundown, I'd counted 2 separate tales. By dinner, the word had gone wherever it goes. I checked into a local hotel, sat on the bed, and waited to be assassinated. They came around midnight, with craftsmanship, a tube under the door, a thread of blue sleeping smoke, quality product, their poisoner would brag, drops a 3rd-tier bear, and I did my finest work as an unconscious body while 2 masked men let themselves in, an 8 mask and a chicken mask, chatting shop over my sleeping form, about the 2 students before me and where they went, about contribution points this delivery would earn them, about maybe rising high enough to receive the blessing, like Deacon Lee, and never having to do grunt work again. Contribution points, deacons, blessings. My missing persons case had a liturgy. I let them get one hand onto my backpack. Then the evening went off script. First for them because the corpse spoke, and then for me because the moment I moved, the chicken mask spun and struck not at me, but at his own partner. And the 8 mask, who'd apparently expected betrayal all along, dusted him with black powder that dropped him convulsing. Honor among cultists. They'd each planned to deliver me solo and split the credit 0 ways. The 8 mask got half a gloat out before I took him by the throat, and Wit, after his free hand went for 1 more pouch of powder, took his arm off entirely. Doctor's discretion. He'd have wanted it to a hospital standard. I hauled both of them to the bureau, where Lei Chung looked at my delivery, 1 poisoned, 1 minus an arm, both breathing, and asked, a little hoarsely, whether I'd found them like this. Then their memory specialist, a bearded mind reader called Old Guo, laid 2 fingers on the chicken mask's forehead to pull the truth out. The truth came out swinging. The prisoner convulsed, black veins crawling up his face, blood welling from every opening, a mind lock planted deeper than his own personality, triggered by the intrusion, and he arched against the chains and screamed his last words in a voice like a sermon on fire. Those who refuse the howl of the beast will be devoured by their own genes. The beast god will descend, and died. The interrogation room went colder than the corpse. Lei Cheng, the unflappable veteran who'd processed my entire week of violence without blinking, went gray, whispered, the beast god cult, they've really come back, and was out the door at a run to wake up his chain of command. Old Guo planted himself over the surviving prisoner like a fortress and told me, without turning around, kid, your mission's done. This water's too deep for students. Go home. Forget what you heard. So naturally, I went back to my hotel and read everything the public net would give me, which was a wall of scarlet warnings. The beast god cult, the one cult in the nation classified for permanent elimination. Doctrine. Humanity's cities are cages, the monsters are the liberated ones, and mankind must be awakened to its own beasthood through pain, administered generously by them. Their record. Terror attacks across the country, a rebellion behind the lines during the Third Warcraft War, massacres of civilians, and one signature hobby that made my weeks snap into focus like a spear point. They hunt promising young ability users, kidnap them, transform them, sacrifice them. They call it a gift. They'd been silent for 30 years. Now they were fishing an industrial district 1 train ride from the capital, baiting the hook with a mundane crime and reeling in every talented student who came to investigate. 2 before me, then me, except their delivery men are now a corpse and a bureau interrogation subject, and somewhere a deacon's ledger has a hole in it with my description next to it. Word of advice from a man who did it. Don't read a terror cult's manifesto alone in a hotel room at 2 a.m. Read it in the morning, with breakfast. Because lying there in the dark, I ran through it all again. The beast tide that hit my train to the capital, which investigators later traced to human interference. The missing students, the masks, the mind locks that kill their own people rather than leak a name. And understood that I hadn't stumbled into a case this week. I'd stumbled into a war that had been circling my whole cohort since summer. And then I laughed, alone, in the dark, because there's something wrong with me, and I've made peace with it. A fanatic army of augmented zealots who hunt young geniuses, who are organized, funded, everywhere, and worth ability points, because the system pays for any target with special energy, and cultists qualify. An enemy that hunts people like me. An enemy nobody will mourn. An enemy in unlimited supply. Sunday morning, I rode home through the washed, clean sunlight, walked into the star-plucking pavilion, and got 2 receipts for my week. First, the Bureau had jointly re-rated my missing persons case and tripled the reward. No explanation given, which is what it looks like when adults quietly reclassify your student errand as counterterrorism. Second, my mission points crossed 1,000, and the elevator that had alarm buzzed me off the 3rd floor at the start of term opened onto it like a hotel lobby. The 3rd floor board. A-rank contracts on 3rd-tier monsters, S-rank contracts on 4th tier, and down at the bottom, 1 SS rank posting for the venom gland of a 5th-tier horror, at a credit price that would buy every technique I've ever drooled over, the board where the school's real hunters shop, and where, as of this morning, I have an account. So let's total the ledger, 1 year after a boy in Qingshui City decided an E-rank certificate was worth dying over. His body got a second tenant. The girlfriend who farmed him fled the province with her sponsor. Invoice paid in full. The exam they warned him not to take, we won. 1st in the city, 3rd in the province, past last year's champion's score. The school is the best in the nation. The dorm is a villa. The account holds 30 million. The finger holds folded space. The freshman list has had one name on top of it since day 1, and the campus calls that name Demon King, mostly with affection now. Friends. One brother who bet his future on me when I was worthless. One deranged poet with an 80-20 stake in my legend. One ice-cold alchemist who owes me nothing and helps anyway. Standing appointments. A 4th-tier club president in 1 year, 10,000 credits on the table. A dead bandits map with ancient ruins circled on it. A pound of impossible tea I swore on my honor to pick off a 5th-tier monster's mountain. Not bad for a dead man's year. And yet the thing I keep turning over in the dark isn't any of that. It's that somewhere out past the city lights, in the deep wilderness where my weekends live, there's a congregation that's been collecting boys like me for 30 years. They took 2 students from that district, and no one's found the bodies. They drove 10,000 beasts at my train for reasons nobody's explained. Their foot soldiers die with sermons on their lips rather than speak a name, and their deacons hand out blessings that turn men into something the Bureau won't describe in public files. They know someone broke their fishing line in Manhwa. Sooner or later, they'll pull the thread, and the thread ends at the most famous freshman in the capital, a boy with S-rank fire and no family, which is, word for word, their favorite kind of sacrifice. Let them pull. I've seen how this world treats its gentle people, and I left gentle in a pool of blood on a desk in Qingshui City. My spears are rank sharper every month. My fire burns souls, and theirs are apparently pre-loosened. They think they're the hunters in this story, and I genuinely cannot wait for the moment they learn what I've known since the night I woke up bleeding in a stranger's body. Neither of us is the prey. They call their god the beast god. Fine. When we finally meet, I'll introduce him to mine. It lives in my head, it pays badly, and it's very, very hungry.